Chapter 12:28. Therefore in such a situation Wuxian finally gave an answer. It was better for him to stop asking and not ask any more questions. After the rescue team came and captured the identity of this god, he would ask other people about other things. It was better not to ask now. After all, it wasn't necessary. When the black-robed man saw that Dustless didn't continue asking, he became a little curious and asked directly. You don't want to continue asking in such a situation? I thought you would continue to ask. After all, you're really curious about me, so I'm willing to tell you about it. Besides, I know that if I can't find a way to survive here, we will be buried here together. I'm also willing to tell you a lot of things. Dustless felt that the most important thing in such a situation was that if he couldn't find a way to survive, then he would die together with the black-robed man. Therefore at this time the black-robed man's trust in him increased a lot, but even so it was still the same. The black-robed man didn't care much about this matter. Instead he continued to talk on his own initiative. He didn't care whether the black-robed man was willing to listen or not. Dustless continued to learn about such a person. In such a situation, the black-robed man obtained a very good yi-liang, that is, a divine artifact that didn't have a loyal owner and was engraved with the name of many people. Although such a divine artifact was quite good in terms of power, in the end, it was still in a mediocre state. Generally speaking, no one liked it. Dustless didn't expect that a great god like him would try to subdue this yi-liang under such circumstances. After all, there was really no need for this matter. A person like him could directly obtain a lot of good, unique, and clean divine artifacts. At that time, when the black-robed man met the yi-liang, he liked this divine artifact very much and invested a lot of effort into it. Then Dustless knew that there was a problem with yi-liang. But in such a situation, the black-robed man was still thinking of other ways to get the divine artifact. Yi-liang's divine artifact was a problem. Yi-liang's divine artifact was a problem. But under such circumstances, the black-robed man was still thinking of other ways to get the divine artifact. Because he really loved and cared for this divine artifact very much, he found that no matter what kind of person he was, he had no other way. Under such circumstances, he directly went astray and accidentally did the wrong thing. Then, under such circumstances, he directly carried out a symbiotic relationship with this yi-liang. Both of them were directly tied together. But under such circumstances, the final result was very bad. In the end, he couldn't find a solution. On the contrary, yi-liang directly wanted to commit suicide out of guilt to solve all the problems. However, suicide couldn't solve the problem. Instead, it made the problem of the black-robed man in front of him more serious. When Dustless heard this, he felt that this was a tragedy, a tragic one. Dustless didn't know what to say for a while. In fact, Dustless knew that the person in front of him had finally embarked on a path of no return. It was very miserable. Dustless felt that he was a little cruel at this moment because most of what he said was a lie. The yi-liang didn't have a correct way to survive long ago. Therefore, in the face of such a situation, the yi-liang was already doomed. But Dustless knew that he had to do so. If he didn't do so, he would be in danger. It could only be said that one wrong step led to many wrong steps. Now there was no turning back. After Dustless heard the whole story, the person in front of him asked him, "What's wrong?" In such a situation, after telling the story, you still haven't found a clue of the original place? My patience is limited. Your life and death are in my hands, but I can't find it for a long time. I'm getting impatient. Dustless also knew that this was where his danger lay. Facing such a situation, he was thinking about what he should do next. He could only stall for time as much as possible because there was no other choice. In such a situation, Wuxian could only patronize the other party for the time being. I said that I might not be able to find this place. In such a situation, I can only try my best to wait patiently. Perhaps if we continue walking, we might be able to find this crucial place. After all, the things that happened before and the memories are also a very mysterious moment and state for me. After Dustless said these words, he stared straight at the black-robed man, waiting for his reaction. At this moment, the black-robed man stopped. Obviously, he didn't want to continue the search in such a situation. The black-robed man's eyes flashed with a dangerous light at this moment. He stared at Dustless and said, "Do you remember last time that you entered such a state because you were on the verge of death? How about this time I'll put you in such a state and see if you can still enter such a state? What do you think?" "I think it's still possible." Wuxian could see that there was some light in the other party's eyes. He knew that he was in danger at this moment. The other party was not negotiating with him at all. Instead, under such circumstances, the other party directly made this decision for him. He was simply making a decision for him. Dustless was thinking at this moment whether he should directly fall out with the black-robed man or continue to pretend in such a situation. Chapter 1229. In such a situation, Wu Qin didn't intend to continue feigning civility with the other party. After all, there was no need to exist in such a situation. If he really continued to act with the other party, if the act became real and hurt himself, wouldn't the loss outweigh the gain? Furthermore, Dustless wasn't willing to entrust his life to someone else. That was the most insecure thing he could do. Therefore, in the face of such a situation, Dustless directly spoke to the black-robed man. I don't think it's necessary at all. Besides, although you don't have much time left, we're already here. Why can't we continue to be patient? Besides, the story you're going to tell is quite short. Do you think it's realistic to want to find that thing in such a short time? I don't think it's realistic. At this moment, the black-robed man was already brandishing the weapon in his hand. Under such circumstances, the chain on his hand fluttered and his body began to emit some aura. Under such circumstances, it seemed like the black-robed man was about to attack the person in front of him. Dustless also quickly prepared for battle. After all, no matter what, all the tricks he had done along the way should have been sent out. In the face of such a situation, the other party should be able to save him in time. There was no need for him to panic. What Dustless needed to do now was to stall for time as much as possible until the reinforcements arrived. As long as the reinforcements arrived, the black-robed man in front of him wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Therefore, in the face of such a situation, Dustless directly spoke to the black-robed man in front of him. It seems that you are determined to use your method. Then I have nothing else to say. I can't put my life in your hands like this. After all, this is not a guarantee for me. If you really want to kill me and I don't have any ability to resist, I will definitely be unwilling to be killed by you. So, I am willing to fight with you. After saying these words, Dustless directly pulled out his tang saber and pulled away from the black-robed man in time. During the journey, Dustless had already recovered from the previous battles. Under such circumstances, Dustless already knew how to fight this battle. This battle was a battle of life and death. There wouldn't be a battle of attrition. This time the black-robed man would definitely be serious. Therefore, in the face of such a situation, what he had to do now was to fight with all his might. Then he had to probe the black-robed man's strength. In such a situation he had to rely on what kind of ability the black-robed man had to reach this stage. After all, Dustless was able to deduce the black-robed man's identity. Even the black-robed man himself admitted that he was once a god. In such a situation, Dustless couldn't let his guard down. He had to be cautious. The moment Dustless pulled away from the black-robed man, he saw a hook with demonic chi. It directly attacked Dustless in front of him. Facing such a situation, Dustless didn't panic. He calmly dealt with the situation and directly used his tang saber to block the black-robed man's attack. In such a situation, Dustless felt that the black-robed man took out a dagger. This dagger made Dustless feel a little dangerous. Dustless knew that this dagger was the one the black-robed man made when he first met him. Moreover, this dagger seemed to have a great attacking power against him. It could be said to be a very powerful and unpredictable weapon. Dustless didn't know what this thing was, but he could instinctively feel the threat it posed to him. The black-robed man directly said to Dustless, "Because I don't know about the little tricks you have done along the way? Don't forget that I was once a god. In such a situation there are some messages that I naturally know. In the face of such a situation, guess what I did?" After Dustless heard such news, he was slightly surprised because he really didn't expect such a situation. He thought that the black-robed man didn't know about the little tricks he had done along the way. And if the black-robed man knew, why didn't he stop him earlier? In such a situation the black-robed man only said it now. It felt like the black-robed man was testing him. Moreover, according to the black-robed man's temper, if the black-robed man knew about the tricks he had done along the way, then the black-robed man would naturally know that he was lying to him. There was no need for the black-robed man to follow him all the way to this place. It would be better for the black-robed man to attack him directly. Therefore, Dustless continued to pretend that he didn't understand anything and said to the black-robed man with some doubts, "What tricks? I don't know. In such a situation I clearly didn't do anything but you said so. I really don't understand." After hearing these words, the black-robed man smiled and said directly to Dustless in front of him, "There's no need for you to put on a show with me because there's really no need for it. I've been indulging you all this time because I want to know if what you said is true or not. After all, it could be half true and half false." After hearing the black-robed man's words, Dustless knew that the black-robed man had seen through him a long time ago. The black-robed man just didn't say anything because of the black-robed man's last wish. But because of his current actions, the black-robed man had already determined that the black-robed man's wish was completely destroyed. There was no way to save the black-robed man. Therefore, the black-robed man wanted to kill him and bury him with the black-robed man. Dustless was naturally unwilling to agree to such a situation. Fortunately, he wanted to know if all his plans had been seen through. Chapter 12:30. If all the things he left behind were already in trouble, then it was really a very bad thing. It was simply a nightmare for him. But now, Dustless could only look forward to it a little. It was not completely destroyed yet. After all, there were several kinds of hands and feet he left behind, and they were all hidden. Even if she could distinguish one or two of them, she would not be able to distinguish them completely in such a situation. Otherwise, his message would not be able to be sent out, and his signal for help would be intercepted halfway. Then, he could only fight against the person in front of him. He could no longer wait for reinforcements to arrive. If this was really the case, then the situation would be very bad. Facing such a situation, Dustless frowned. Then, he looked at the person in front of him with a serious expression. His mind was quickly thinking about what to do next. But the other party had no other patience. He wanted to take Dustless's life. This time, the other party's chain was very sharp and there were some sharp weapons on it. It seemed like the other party really wanted to save him. At this moment, Dustless was also a little embarrassed to deal with it. Tang Dao and Dustless were telepathically connected. When facing the other party's attack, they could always react emotionally and resist the other party's fierce attacks. But even so, the situation was still not that optimistic. At this moment, the other party did not hold back at all. It seemed like the other party wanted to kill him wholeheartedly. Dustless had been thinking about the other party's weakness. If his staff and close combat were not good enough, then he would eventually be defeated by the other party. What was the other party's weakness? Dustless planned to attack the other party's heart last time, but the other party's weakness did not seem to be the heart. If the weakness was not the heart, then where would it be? His chain? His neck? Or his head? In hindsight, I felt that it was very likely that the final weakness would be one of his weapons. Through the previous stories, I knew that he and his weapon were almost on the same page. They would live and die together. In such a situation, the weapon would be closely related to him and would be implicated in some way. Let's talk about the first chain that was related to the other party. That Yi Liang was still there. But Dustless always felt that it was not that simple. After all, the chain in his hand had a very special relationship with the person in front of him. When he first saw this chain, it was because he came to a temple. Then there was a kind deity in the temple. Because of improper management, the deity had too many divine weapons under her hands, which caused the divine weapons to fall ill. She also suffered a backlash. Among them, this chain could be said to be one of the most powerful weapons. Unfortunately, it had been neglected. That was why this chain had a problem. But the key point, how was this matter related to the black-cloaked person? Could it be that the chain and the black-cloaked person made a deal? So the two of them colluded with each other? Dustless suddenly felt that he seemed to have grasped an important clue in his mind, but such a clue was not completely displayed in this place. It was as if there was a cloud of fog that covered all these things, allowing him and the man to analyze them. However, Wuxian knew that this chain must be unusual for the black-robed man. Although he didn't know what the relationship between the two was like, Dustless always felt that it was not simple. Therefore, in the face of such a situation, Wuxian intended to make a guess and see if this chain would be the black-robed man's weakness. If it wasn't the black-cloaked person's weakness, then the black-cloaked person's weakness must be somewhere else. It was more likely that one of the divine weapons on the black-cloaked person's body was the black-cloaked person's weakness, which was closely related to the black-cloaked person's life. But this was just a guess. But now, if he guessed wrongly, then it was very likely that something bad would happen. So he had to be careful and not make a guess casually. So in the face of such a situation, Dustless was also thinking about how to tactfully test the black-cloaked person's weakness. If he attacked the black-cloaked person's weakness with all his strength, then he would certainly bear the pressure of the black-cloaked person's all-out attack. Dodging the black-cloaked person's attack and attacking the black-cloaked person at the same time was a difficult thing to do. So he only had one chance to guess wrongly. If he wanted to determine the black-cloaked person's weakness, then he could test it first. After confirming it, he could directly attack the black-cloaked person without any scruples or reservations. In the face of such a situation, Dustless was already prepared at this moment. In this process, he directly pretended to attack the black-cloaked person, but in fact he was going all out to damage the chain to see if his guess had any effect. Under such circumstances, the chain was retracted. The Tang saber fiercely chased and chopped at the chain, causing some small flaws to appear at the mouth of the chain. In such a situation, he carefully stared at the black-cloaked person, trying to see if he could find any information from the black-cloaked person's eyes. But in the end, he still failed and didn't find any useful information. Because the black-cloaked person was wrapped tightly from head to toe, he couldn't speculate what the black-cloaked person was thinking from these things. If Dustless was still willing to believe in his intuition and was willing to believe that he was not wrong, then the black-cloaked person's weakness should be this chain. Although he didn't know why it was this chain, as long as he could confirm it, then he didn't have anything to worry about. Therefore, Dustless directly changed his way of attack and slashed at the chain madly. He didn't care about the black-robed man in front of him. After all, Dustless had no other way at this moment. Chapter 1231. The only thing Dustless could do now was to attack the chain madly and open up a way for himself to survive. As for other situations, Dustless didn't want to think about it anymore. He was now focused on entering the battle state. The black-robed man was a little surprised that Dustless would suddenly attack the chain. In such a situation, he directly began to attack in close combat. On the other hand, the chain was attacking from afar. After Dustless saw the black-robed man's action, he felt that his speculation was more reliable. If his guess was wrong, then the black-robed man didn't need to be so agitated. As long as the black-robed man attacked the other chain, it would be more advantageous for the black-robed man. However, the black-robed man didn't do that. In such a situation, it meant one thing. That was, the black-robed man must care about this chain. Although he didn't know what this chain meant to the black-robed man. But he could definitely see the importance of this chain to the black-robed man. He didn't know what was so important about the Dustless line, but in such a situation, it didn't stop him from launching this crazy attack. Even if the other party attacked him in close combat, he would still have the time to attack the chain as hard as he could as long as he was prepared to respond. The gaps on the chain became more and more under Dustless's crazy attacks. It looked a little scary, but Dustless also didn't feel good because he had consumed too much of his energy because of these attacks. In the process of the battle, the black-robed man didn't show any strange situation. It was good that he suddenly felt a little uncertain. However, he knew that he couldn't panic now. There was no turning back for him now. After all, now that he had reached this point, even if the path he took was wrong, he could only brace himself and go on. It was just that he knew that there was no other way. In such a situation, Dustless planned to attack the black-robed man directly with the chain. He wanted to see if the black-robed man was affected by his attack power. If the black-robed man was really affected by his attack on the chain, it meant that the black-robed man's situation was his weakness. Then he would have to attack the chain crazily, and the black-robed man would have nowhere to hide. So after he thought about these things, he quickly began to act. In the face of such a situation, he pretended to attack the chain, but in fact he was attacking the black-robed man in front of him. The black-robed man didn't expect that Wu Chen would directly attack him. Then he attacked himself. His abdomen was directly cut, and his black robe was torn apart. When the black robe was completely exposed in front of Dustless, Dustless also narrowed his eyes and thoroughly saw the black-robed man's situation. There was not a single piece of undamaged flesh on the black-robed man's abdomen. The condition of the black-robed man's body looked very bad, as if he had suffered a serious backlash. The skin on the black-robed man's body was not only in the state of green spots, but also in the state of black spots. It looked very scary. Dustless knew that the black-robed man's condition might be a little serious, but he never thought that the black-robed man's condition would be so serious. It could be seen that the black-robed man's condition had been going on for a long time, and the black-robed man seemed to be speculating that the black-robed man was in pain. These black-robed men should be tormenting him all the time without a moment of rest. In such a situation, even some people sympathized with the black-robed man. After showing his abdomen, the black-robed man smiled and said while touching the black-robed man's abdomen, "Do you see it? This is the current me god. I have completely turned into a monster that is neither human nor ghost. Can you believe it? I was once a high and mighty god, a god that was admired by thousands of people. Now I have completely turned into a monster surrounded by black spots. How can I accept this?" After hearing the other party's words, Wu Chen sighed. It was really a mistake. But to be honest, at that time, after he made a mistake, he directly took control of his problem in front of others. Maybe they could help him find a way to solve this problem. Wu Chen sighed after hearing the other party's words. It was true that he had made a mistake at that time. But he didn't. Instead, he went over there to do research. He tried all kinds of methods to make his injury more serious, but it didn't get better at all. He had already embarked on a path of no return. The most important problem was that he directly accepted the cooperation of others and conducted a series of human experiments. This was completely a heartless thing. After doing it, he definitely couldn't make his body get better. Otherwise, it would be against the harmony of the heavens. Dustless estimated that the black-robed man's body was originally covered in green spots. Later they slowly turned black and white. This series of process must be due to the black-robed man's experiments. In the face of such a situation, Dustless didn't know how to comment on him. Anyway, he was wrong. Dustless didn't want to comment on him. After all, no matter what, the black-robed man always had his own thoughts. It was quite uncomfortable in his heart, so there was no need for him to ridicule the black-robed man. Under such a situation, the black-robed man sighed and said to Dustless, "Don't worry. Actually, I just wanted you to take photos with me and die together. But in such a situation, I felt that you were safe and sound. Looking at me in a sorry state, I suddenly felt unbalanced. I want to see you in the same situation as me. I want to see you face the same situation as me. I want to know what you will do in this situation." Chapter 1232. After hearing the other party's words, Dustless immediately felt that he was in danger. Facing such a situation, Dustless looked at the other party vigilantly. He wanted to know what the other party was planning to do. In such a situation, Dustless speculated in his heart that it was very likely that the other party wanted to do an experiment on him and then turn him into a monster like him. In this way it could balance the other party's psychology. Dustless wasn't willing to do this. After all, he had a life in his heart. Why should he let the other party ruin it? Why should he passively follow the other party's wishes? Therefore, Dustless directly showed his resistance and said to the black-robed man in front of him, "If you have the ability, then come at me. If you don't, then you'll have to endure my attacks. I also want to know who is stronger between the two of us, and who will be the final victor." After Wu Qin said this, the black-robed man didn't seem to care much about it. He continued to attack Wu Qin, and his attacks seemed to be more ferocious. At the same time, Wu Qin could feel that the black-robed man was indeed injured, which explained one thing. The chain was indeed the black-robed man's weakness. If the chain was injured, the black-robed man would also be injured. However, under such a situation, the black-robed man's injuries weren't that serious. In other words, the black-robed man's body could completely withstand these injuries. Therefore, the black-robed man didn't have any problems with these things. Therefore, in the face of such a situation, the black-robed man was still able to attack him. In such a situation, Dustless looked at the black-robed man vigilantly. He saw the black-robed man attacking him again. This time, the black-robed man didn't use the chain. Instead, he took out a weapon that Dustless had never seen before. When Dustless looked at the weapon again, there was a slight shock in his eyes. He didn't expect such a situation to happen. The moment the weapon appeared, Dustless felt that his previous speculation might be wrong. This weapon was the black-robed man's real lethal weapon. As for the weapon, it was the most important factor that affected the black-robed man. Previously, he said that the black-robed man's weakness was the black-robed man's wrong guess. In such a situation, Dustless directly narrowed his eyes. He was thinking about what he should do now. If the black-robed man could turn the situation around, he would be in a very disadvantageous situation. Dustless went over and saw what kind of weapon was in the other party's hand. It was completely small, but it was a little longer than a dagger. If it was compared to a sword, it was really a little strange. It seemed like a weapon that was deliberately made. When the dagger appeared, the black-robed man seemed to be caressing it very leisurely. However, there was a hint of disgust in his eyes. In the end, his expression was very complicated. In such a situation, Dustless looked at the black-robed man with vigilance. Soon, the black-robed man directly attacked Dustless without any other actions. In such a situation, Dustless directly endured the other party's attack. Under such a situation, the Tang saber also reflected what it felt to Dustless. "Master, his weapon is really special. It doesn't feel like an ordinary artifact. As for why it's special, I can't say. However, if it hurts you, then it's very likely that it will cause some problems to your wound. So Master must be careful, don't let it hurt you." In such a situation, Dustless was also very careful and vigilant. He also understood that this was what he should do at this moment. While Dustless was dealing with the black-robed man's attack, he wanted to use this opportunity to let his Tang saber have a head-on collision with the black-robed man's strength. He wanted to see if there would be a good result. In the end, there were many collisions between the black-robed man and the black-robed man. However, the black-robed man's weapon was more powerful. Even after colliding with the black-robed man's Tang saber, there weren't too many injuries. The black-robed man's weapon was still smooth and there weren't any nicks. The relationship between the black-robed man and the black-robed man was very special. In such a situation, the black-robed man's tang saber was stronger than other artifacts. Therefore, when he used the black-robed man's chain to collide with the black-robed man's weapon, there would be nicks on the chain. But now, when the black-robed man's tang saber collided with the black-robed man's weapon, there weren't any nicks on the black-robed man's weapon. In such a situation, Dustless sighed. He guessed that the black-robed man's relationship with the black-robed man was very deep. Therefore, even if he wanted to cause damage to the black-robed man, it would be difficult for him to do so. Dustless wouldn't give up so easily. The black-robed man was very surprised when the black-robed man saw that the black-robed man was unscathed. He narrowed his eyes and looked at Dustless. Then he directly asked Dustless, "You're quite special. What's the relationship between the two of you and your divine artifact? Could it be that you have the same relationship as me? This is a bit interesting. After all, when I found my artifact, it could be said to be a forbidden technique. But where did you find it? You're just a new god." But facing such a question, Dustless was thinking about how to answer. He couldn't say that this was his artifact and there was no special situation at all. But in such a situation, the black-robed man wouldn't believe his words. Therefore, in such a situation, Dustless felt that the best thing to do was to remain silent and not say anything. Even if the black-robed man wanted to make a guess, he would just let the black-robed man make a guess. It wasn't a big problem for him. Chapter 1233. Under such circumstances, the black-robed man watched as Dustless fell into silence. He began to speculate about some things about Dustless in his heart, so he continued to interrogate him. "Dustless, it seems that you are stronger than I thought. In such a situation there are still some things that I don't know about. You are really beyond my expectations." "That's right. Why don't you tell me something about yourself? If you tell me something nice, maybe I will change my mind." After listening to these words, Dustless was naturally unwilling to believe the black-robed man. After all, in such a situation, even if the black-robed man's words were good, it was very likely that the black-robed man would go back on his words and betray him. Therefore, Dustless didn't dare to believe him at all. The black-robed man in front of him didn't have any of these at all. He didn't give him any responsibility. He only had his own thoughts and interests. After all, he could disregard his identity as a god to make such a deep agreement with a savage. This wasn't a big deal. After all, every god had their own personal preferences. This wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was that the black-robed man in front of him still went astray after discovering the problem. He put himself in danger for a divine artifact and a savage. When he found that there was no turning back, the first thing he thought of was not to ask for other solutions, but to solve this problem himself. Eventually, when things got worse, he would use people and some animals to do experiments. His actions completely showed that he didn't put his identity in his eyes, nor did he put the people in his territory who trusted him in his eyes. He only had himself in his heart. He was a very selfish god. Dustless thought that perhaps the black-robed man in front of him could no longer be considered a god. After all, some of his actions didn't deserve the title of a god. In such a situation, Dustless was also thinking about how to refute the black-robed man and delay him. This way he could fight for more chances of survival. After thinking for a while, Dustless directly said to the black-robed man in front of him, "I don't have anything else to say. You can be whatever you think of me. After all, you're so smart. You should be able to guess a little about my identity. So, what's the difference if I say it or not? After all, don't you already have guesses in your heart?" After hearing Dustless's words, the black-robed man smiled gently. But in the process of smiling, he still attacked Dustless fiercely. He said that he could chat with Dustless. However, in reality he still continued to attack Wuxian. This kind of behavior made it hard for people to believe every word he said. Dustless felt that his strength was constantly being consumed, but in the face of such a situation, he didn't dare to relax. After all, he couldn't let the black-robed man see that he was in a difficult situation. After all, the black-robed man would definitely think of ways to attack him and increase his strength when he was weak. So in such a situation, even if Dustless felt a little tired, he didn't dare to relax because he didn't know what would happen to him if he relaxed. So in such a situation, it was best to be careful. The black-robed man hoped that he didn't show any abnormalities at this moment, but Dustless felt that the black-robed man wasn't feeling that good either. At this moment he also felt some pressure in his heart. The battle between the two sides had been constantly colliding. In such a situation, Dustless was still in a disadvantageous position. The situation wasn't very optimistic. Faced with such a situation, the black-robed man could only execute a move with greater strength. In an instant, the divine weapons in his hands were aimed at Dustless at the same time. This attack required the chain to lock Dustless's range of existence, then continue to use other weapons to block other hiding routes. Finally, the black-robed man would launch the final attack himself. Dustless also noticed the black-robed man's intention. He wanted to dodge, but in the end he couldn't succeed. Such a situation gave Dustless a headache. The black-robed man's attack this time was obviously ruthless. It was to injure Xian in such a situation. There was really no other way. When the pure power erupted, Dustless had nowhere to hide. He could only be forced to be locked by her. In the end, Dustless could feel another dagger directly entering his heart. At that moment he seemed to feel a huge pressure from his heart. At this moment his body was still very uncomfortable. The pain in his heart and the domineering power began to spread from his heart. In such a situation, Dustless felt as if a steady stream of demon chi was pouring into his body. His pupils were a little shaken and unfocused. He stared straight at the black-robed man in front of him. Dustless now knew what the black-robed man's intention was. The black-robed man wanted to turn him into a monster that was neither human nor ghost. Dustless wanted to resist and use the pure power of faith in his body to resist, but the effect was still a little weak. This made Dustless feel a little heartache. Because his power of faith seemed to be directly locked, he couldn't use it well. Under such a situation he couldn't resist the black-robed man very well. The black-robed man looked at Dustless and said with a smile, "I advise you not to waste your efforts. The older the ginger, the spicier it is. If you want to play with me, then I can only say that you are not very good at it. In the process of fighting with you, I've already secretly done something." Chapter 1234. After Dustless heard these words he was very surprised. He didn't expect that the other party would still be able to do something to his body under the intense collision between weapons. He didn't expect this at all. Dustless wanted to say something, but he was already surrounded by pain all over his body. Even if he wanted to say something, it was still an unbearable situation. Such a situation also made him very distressed. At this moment, the black-robed man also increased the strength of his hands. In such a situation he directly continued to speak to Dustless. "I know that you have a lot of speculations about me in your heart. I also know that in such a situation, you may think that I didn't do a good job. You may think that I'm incompetent, but you can't deny my previous achievements because of what I'm doing now." At this moment, Dustless had already felt that the demon aura in his body was in a very bad situation. It was sweeping around and destroying everything around him. These things made Dustless feel pain. His entire body at this moment felt that the bad power began to spread directly to his limbs. Dustless could clearly hear what the black-robed man was saying, because every time he was distracted, the other party would always inject demon aura into his body and cause him excessive damage, causing him to instantly wake up due to the pain. Facing such a situation, Dustless didn't know what to say for a while. He could only say that the other party was cruel and made him go through all this. Under such a situation, the black-robed man in front of him spoke to Dustless instead. "It's painful, right? I was also in great pain back then. After experiencing all these things and situations, I don't feel any regret. After all, no matter what, I feel that even if I were to go back in time, I would still do the same." At this moment, Wu Chen's strength began to dissipate slowly. His whole body was in a state of powerlessness, which made people feel helpless. Dustless could only slowly listen to the black-robed man's words in his ear. He knew that the black-robed man was admiring him losing his vitality bit by bit under such a situation. His body was completely occupied by demon aura bit by bit. "I want to look at you carefully. I want to see your current situation and the changes that are happening to you at this moment because I'm really curious about you. I really want to know what's so special about you. You're different from other people. I've already noticed this a long time ago. In such a situation, I've always wanted to know what's so special about you, but I didn't have the chance to study it." After hearing these words, Dustless couldn't help but laugh at the black-robed man in his heart. "You want to explore the mysteries of my body? How can it be so simple? After all, the mysteries of my body shouldn't be fully explored by anyone in this world." Therefore Dustless didn't panic at all. Dustless didn't say these words out loud. After all, he was now unable to speak because of the power in his body. Another reason was that under such a situation, he didn't know how to explain it to the black-robed man. Sometimes, the black-robed man might not necessarily believe what he said because sometimes it was really too unbelievable. In April, Dustless wouldn't reveal his secret, he would only hide it in his heart. The black-robed man didn't expect Dustless to respond in such a situation, so he just made his own guesses bit by bit. Then he looked at the black demon aura spreading continuously on Dustless's body. At this moment, Dustless felt that his body no longer belonged to him. It was as if he had become someone else. In such a situation it was very bad. Dustless was now thinking. If he wasn't so confident at that time, if he returned to that moment, would his situation be different now? However, after thinking about these possibilities, Dustless quickly stopped thinking about them because they were completely meaningless. The black-robed man admired the demonization of Dustless's body bit by bit. When Dustless's body was completely demonized, only his head was left. The black-robed man laughed. The black-robed man carefully looked at Dustless's body that was wrapped in demon aura. It was he who once again ridiculed him. You can't imagine it now, can you? Your entire body is now wrapped in demonic chi, just like how you saw me in my other state. However, I reckon that you probably can't imagine it either. It's really a pity. Dustless couldn't know what he looked like now, but in fact, he could imagine it. After all, it wasn't like he hadn't seen this situation before. Dustless felt that his body no longer belonged to him. He was completely numb. In the face of such a situation, Dustless was thinking about what he should do next. If his body was demonized and he really became like the black-robed man, then what should he do? Should he just sit there and wait for death? Then he would definitely not be reconciled. He wouldn't just sit there and wait to be captured. If his body really encountered those changes and provoked those stimuli, then under such circumstances, he would definitely lose everything and hand over everything to those powerful masked gods. Then in such a situation he would let them see if they could think of a way for him. If they couldn't and wanted to hurt him, then he would think of other ways to deal with it. Chapter 1235. Kurosaki Ichigo and the rest were shocked and angry. Dustless didn't treat them as humans at all. It was like watching a monkey perform. How could they not be angry? Wu Qin simply treated them as animals to please. What kind of humiliation was this? Everyone, let's attack together. Anyway, this guy has already shed all pretense of cordiality. He won't let us go easily. Ishida Yulong's two arms were like black holes, attracting a large amount of Reiki. In an instant, the Reiki condensed into a crystal-clear bow and arrow. Moreover, there were countless arrows that emitted cold light. Really? Is this kind of weak attack again? Who do you think I am? Dustless curled his lips in disdain. In an instant he became dispirited. Originally he wanted to play with this group of people. However, when he saw such a weak attack, his interest disappeared. You, this bastard. Ishida Yulong was choked by Dustless's words. This could be said to be one of his most powerful moves. However, Dustless's sloppy attitude didn't respect him at all. This was a disguised form of belittling and naked contempt. Whoosh, whoosh. Tens of thousands of bows and arrows shot out in unison. There was no way to dodge, no way to escape. Boom, boom, boom. The moment they came into contact with Dustless's body, the arrows flashed brightly. It was as if they had come to the surface of the sun in an instant. Then the earth shook and the mountains shook. The intense explosion eroded the body. Even the captain was seriously injured. Success. Inoue Oriheim cried with joy. Dustless gave her a fatal pressure. It was extremely difficult for her to breathe. Every second that Dustless lived in this world, her spirit was on the verge of collapse. Success. Are you kidding me? Find out what kind of mission is in front of you. The large cluster of flames disappeared, revealing Dustless's body. His whole body was still burning in flames. However, his voice came from the flames, indicating that he was fine. The scene was extremely terrifying. It was enough to shock anyone. Dustless's head was still burning in flames, but he was completely fine. The most shocking thing was that Dustless, whose head was burning in flames, often had a teasing smile on his face. All of you, get out of the way. Leave this guy to me. T-Tiger stepped in front of Ishida Yulong and Inoue Oriheim. A strange arm extended from his right arm. It was strange and filled with a special evil aura. This power, it seems like the power of Su. You, a mere human, can cross the boundary of race and obtain the power of Su. Not bad, worthy of praise. But that's all. Dustless glanced at T-Tiger in surprise. Then he became calm again. When he looked at T-Tiger again, he found that the guy had disappeared. I didn't tell you to start and you attacked without permission. Where are your morals? Dustless looked around and complained. You don't know how to follow the rules at all. Boom, 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 the back of Dustless's head trembled. A strong and powerful fist hit Dustless. Because the power was too strong, the air was filled with the danger of suffocation. I gave you a chance to sneak attack, but your performance is too troublesome. Dustless turned his head and glanced at T-Tiger behind him. His Zanpakuto swept out. Your performance is over. I don't have much time. It's time to change. The weak cold light turned into an overbearing slash, and T-Tiger was easily destroyed by the explosive force. Puchi. A living person was cut in half by Dustless. Tiger. The mournful scream made people twitch. Looking closely, it was Inoue Oriheim and Ishida Yuryu with red eyes. Of course there was also Shinozaki Ichigo. But even a cheat has its limits. Against Dustless, Shinozaki Ichigo was destined to die here. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The black crescent moonlight was slanted, and the places it passed by were dead silent. Under this destructive momentum, everything that blocked it was as fragile as snow. Gitsuga Tensho. The black moonlight magnified again, covering the layers of void, tearing a huge crack visible to the naked eye. Instead of calling it a slash, it was more like a crescent moon-shaped black hole attacking. Because everywhere Shinozaki Ichigo slashed, everything turned into fragments, revealing the abyss of the universe. Yawn. Yawning lazily, Dustless gradually became sleepy. He said impatiently, Shinozaki Ichigo, let's end the grudges of the past today. Although I killed your parents, your friends, and will kill you soon, your two sisters, and I have no grudges. So let me help you take care of them. Puchi. Hearing this, Shinozaki Ichigo's lungs churned, and he spat out a mouthful of blood uncontrollably. He glared at Dustless with fire in his eyes and shouted angrily, My parents are yours, you bastard? Some people like to die, so I can only reluctantly send them off. Wu Che shrugged helplessly. Then his gaze fell on Ishida Yuryu and he said bluntly, Your father too. I found him an eyesore, so I sent him to heaven to meet his deceased wife. The two of you should thank me properly. Shinozaki Ichigo and Ishida Yuryu were trembling with anger. Their eyes turned red, and they were filled with violent hostility. Their murderous gazes were locked on Dustless. I sent your father to heaven to meet his deceased wife, and they were happy. But you two bastards actually pointed your swords at me. You're worse than pigs and dogs. Chapter 1236. Shinozaki Ichigo and Ishida Yuryu felt a chill down their spine. Looking at Dustless's cold eyes, their hearts were about to jump out of their bodies. As the saying goes, killing someone is as easy as nodding your head to the ground. However, when it came to Dustless, this saying was obviously too weak. With just a thought, he could crush an entire world. With such unparalleled strength, no one could even muster up the will to resist. The worst thing was Dustless's exaggerated identity, the Spirit King. Killing him would cause the entire world to collapse. They couldn't kill him at all. Otherwise they would be digging their own graves. Crack, crack. Just then the void exploded and a few figures came out from it. Captain Jingle, Captain Soy Fan, and Dustless frowned as he looked at the figures that came out from the realm crossing gate. When he saw the two young girls, his interest was piqued. He smiled at Shinozaki Ichigo and teased, They are your sisters, Shinozaki Shuri and Shinozaki Yuko. When I killed Shiba Ishin, I promised him that I would take care of his two daughters. Don't even think about it. I will never hand my sisters over to you. Shinozaki Ichigo's tone was filled with madness. His entire body was emitting a frightening aura. That crazy gaze that seemed to want to drag everyone down with him was extremely intimidating. Even Unohana Retsu, who was swept by it, frowned slightly. Captain Jingle, why aren't you bringing them over? Dustless said lazily as he hooked his finger at Jingle Shunshui. However, Jingle Shunshui was indifferent. He looked at Dustless with a complicated gaze. He took a deep breath and said, Without a doubt, since you are the Spirit King, you are the one I am absolutely loyal to. However, before that, I have a question to ask. Did you have anything to do with Fujitake's death? After he finished speaking, Jingle Shunshui stared at Dustless. He was completely different from his usual carefree self. His eyes were sharp. As long as Dustless was lying, he would be able to tell. It is indeed you. Jingle Shunshui felt as if he was struck by lightning. His body trembled violently. He was usually calm and composed, but now he was panting heavily. At first, he felt that there was something wrong with Yukitake Jushiru's death. It happened so suddenly, and the deaths of several captains were too strange. However, because Wuchen was the head captain at that time, he couldn't investigate to the end. So what? What are you going to do? Wu Qin, who had completely shed all pretenses of cordiality, was too lazy to say more. He shook the sharp sword in his hand. His meaning was self-evident. Do you still need to say it? Hearing this, Xuanhuan immediately pulled out his zanpakuto, and his spiritual pressure rolled as he said hoarsely, "The entire Soul Society knows about my relationship with Fujitake. Now that he has been killed by you, we will not rest until one of us is dead." Naturally, puff, S's Xuanhuan felt, he felt, S's and felt's felt, estituto was to's he felt, his. Was, as his, S's heart's heart, as he's. To kill, as to die. As his's. Fight to the death? Sorry you don't deserve it. 8054 Waste Flame. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A round flame flew out like a flying saucer. Although it was only the 54th Hado Jingle Xuanhuan who was seriously injured by Dustless, had no extra strength to resist. Boom boom boom, the flame engulfed Jingle Xuanhuan, and the high temperature melted everything. When the flame dissipated, Jingle Xuanhuan was also destroyed. Seeing this scene, Kurosaki Ichigo and Ishida Yulong were both unwilling. The so-called captain-level Shinigami was just an ordinary human in front of them. Holy destruction arrow. In the distant sky, countless cold lights suddenly came, all of them were arrows. It was a unique attack of Quincy, but the one who attacked was not Ishida Yulong. Silver Wheel Reincarnation Explosion. A majestic sword blade storm emerged, instantly disintegrating the incoming arrows as if they were nothing. "You are finally here, there is Habuk." His sight was fixed on the figure in a cloak in the distance. His eyes were like torches and his deep and raging red eyes were majestic. "Of course." Habuk smiled confidently and said calmly, "You can kill Yamamoto but you can't do anything to me. Without enough confidence, I won't come out." A grin appeared on the corner of Habuk's mouth. He could feel the deadly pressure but his expression did not change. His deep eyes were extremely gloomy and cold. "Bring him out for me. Let this new Spirit King take a look." Dustless didn't say anything. He knew Habuk's character. He would never do something he wasn't confident in. If he dared to come out and seek death, it meant that he had a life-saving trump card. Ka. Bursts of white light swept across the void and transformed into a door. Following that, two bound and suppressed figures stepped out from within. "You want to use them to threaten me? You are really despicable," Dustless said expressionlessly. There was no anger or sadness. His unchanging expression was very straightforward. The two people who were caught turned out to be Rukia and Nero. Habuk's heart couldn't help but tighten. Dustless's calmness was not right. This was one of the annoying methods he used to threaten Dustless. He didn't expect to be able to threaten Yin Zicheng, but he should at least show some worry. "Do you really think I dare to kill them?" Habuk's heart flashed with a ruthless light. He cast a strange look at the people who bound Rukia and Nero. It was obvious that he wanted to kill one of them first. Bang bang bang. A few clouds of bloody light suddenly exploded in the sky. Chapter 1237. Habuk couldn't help but shrink his neck as he stared at Dustless's cold expression. His eyes couldn't help but look towards the horizon. He had a feeling that there was an invisible guillotine staring at him. Perhaps, as long as Dustless gave the order, he would be decapitated along with his corpse. "You are still too far away." After staring at Habuk for a few seconds, Dustless said such a shocking sentence. "Is that so?" Suppressing the strange feeling in his heart, Habuk put on a fake smile and said, "Then let me have a taste of the head captain's trust. I don't have time." Dustless didn't give Habuk a chance. He planned to destroy him in the shortest time possible. Immediately he used one of his strongest moves. His body was covered in emerald light as Dustless changed into another form. With a casual wave of his hand, a ray of light covered the sky. Golden Wheel Reincarnation Explosion. A huge light sword appeared in Dustless's hand and expanded without limit. 10 meters, 100 meters, 1,000 meters, 10,000 meters, 100,000 meters. Furthermore, it was still growing without end with no end in sight. Poochie. Crack. Boom. 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 All kinds of destructive horns intertwined. Any living or non-living thing that came in contact with the light was crushed by the light. Poochie. Kurosaki Ichigo was split in half. Poochie. Ishida Yulong was the same. Another two Poochie, ear-piercing sounds rang out. Looking up, there were two more halves of corpses falling down. Looking down, it was Habuk and his number one lackey Jugram. Boom. 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 The light slanted down and landed on the ground, easily tearing it apart and splitting it into a huge canyon. At this moment, Dustless exclaimed. Looking at the horrifying Soul Society, he turned to Unohana Retsu and explained, Sorry, I just swallowed a spirit king not long ago. My overall strength has increased. I didn't pay attention and cut Soul Society in half. If apologies are useful, everyone's dreams will come true. Unohana Retsu scolded in annoyance. She then smiled helplessly. Looking at the scarred Soul Society, her eyes couldn't help but dim. Hee. Seeing Unohua Lai's sadness, Dustless laughed in his heart. He had once told Unohua Lai that he would take her away, but she was unwilling to do so. Therefore Dustless had no choice but to destroy the entire Soul Society. Of course, this was definitely not as simple as destroying Soul Society. Hueco Mundo and the modern world all had some kind of connection. The destruction of one side would inevitably lead to the collapse of the entire world. In other words, it was impossible for Unohua to continue living in Soul Society, or rather, in this world. Aren't the two of you celebrating a little too early? A hoarse and gloomy voice could be heard, followed by the appearance of Habak. He didn't die. This must be his ability, omniscient and omnipotent. Dustless sighed in his heart. Looking at Habak, his eyes were filled with passion. The new double pupils in his eyes looked very disgusting and uncomfortable, but there was one thing that could not be denied. This ability was heaven-defying. He can see the future and all known skills are useless against him. Maybe he used omniscient and omnipotent to see the future and understand my moves, so Golden Will Reincarnation Explosion is useless against him. Dustless pondered and understood that it was Habak's ability. This world, there are so many invincible abilities. Dustless sighed from the bottom of his heart. Whether it was Hogyoku Aizen or Habak, they were all such people. Shinozaki Ichigo was also one of them. Almost all of them had an immortal body. You still want to heal? Ishida Yurong is already dead. Since you value your ties so much, you can die with him. Looking at Shinozaki Ichigo on the ground, Dustless's expression was cold. He gathered a majestic power in his palm, and with a wave of his hand, the void rapidly distorted. Ka. The sky cracked and a black hole appeared. Dustless's palm released a majestic gravitational force and grabbed Shinozaki Ichigo's entire body. 10,000 mammoth heavens pull. Dustless controlled Shinozaki Ichigo's body with both of his hands. He aimed at the black hole in the sky and threw Shinozaki Ichigo into it. To some people, drifting alone in the depths of the universe and living without a goal was worse than death. Bastard, let go of me. Shinozaki Ichigo, who had regained his senses, roared. His tone was filled with endless hatred. He locked his gaze on Shinozaki Yuko and Shinozaki Shaili and said, "They are my only family left. You can't." Hee. Dustless suddenly floated in front of Shinozaki Ichigo and showed an ambiguous smile. He looked very evil and promised, "Hee, your sister Hee, I'm here. Don't worry. I'm going to kill you." Hearing this, Shinozaki Ichigo was furious. He thought to himself that it was because of you that he was worried. You can live in your sister's shadow forever. Glancing at Shinozaki Ichigo, Dustless gathered a high-density light under his feet. Lightspeed kick. A merciless kick flew out and hit Shinozaki Ichigo, kicking him into the abyss of the universe. He would live on like an insignificant ant. After dealing with you, it's time for me to move to another place. Dustless shifted his gaze and looked at Habak, who was struggling at death's door. Habak was his last enemy. After killing him, he would be able to leave with Unohana Retsu and step into a new world. There was no need to waste his time in a worthless world. He raised his finger gently, and a ray of golden light engulfed Habak. Chapter 1238. Habak wasn't Shinozaki Ichigo. Their strength was on a completely different level. After all, he was also a part of the Spirit King's body. His strength was worlds apart from Shinozaki Ichigo's. Don't compare me to Shinozaki Ichigo. I'm not an idiot like him. Habak said proudly. A cold light flashed in his dark red eyes, and a murderous glint flickered in them. Those overlapping eyes were extremely disgusting, but it was Habak's greatest trump card against Dustless. You're actually the same as him. There's no difference. No, you're not even comparable to Shinozaki Ichigo. Staring at Habak, Dustless shook his head and praised, Shinozaki Ichigo might be a simpleton, but at least he has the tenacity to fight and not give up. You, on the other hand, are just a clown hiding behind the scenes, a piece of trash who only dared to make a move today. This is called enduring humiliation for the greater good. Habak argued, his face red. However, Dustless ignored him. He stared at Jugram with a gloomy gaze. What are you trying to do? Seeing that there was something wrong with Dustless's eyes, Habak felt that something was wrong. Dustless's thirsty gaze was piercing his soul. Could it be that this guy wants to? Realizing that something was wrong, Habakk's body turned cold. He suddenly guessed Dustless's terrifying intentions. Just as he was about to rush to Jugram's side, it was already too late. A red barrier rose from the ground, binding Habak within it. 6 crimson suns formation. Habak within the barrier was furious. He gathered all his strength and attacked the barrier. Boom, boom, boom. He raised his sword high and with a raise of his hand, he unleashed a near-invincible attack. A hole was cut in the sky, but it couldn't even shake the barrier that was as thin as a cicada's wing. Everything was in vain. Just watch quietly. You're next. There's a Habak. Dustless glanced at Habak coldly, then landed beside Jugram. The latter was expressionless and he was very quiet. He was no different from a rock. Looks like you don't have any last words. Jugram remained silent and Dustless didn't waste any words either. His body was like a hole and countless drops of black liquid flowed out, flying towards Jugram in liquid form. This is... Jugram's face darkened slightly, revealing a cautious look as he said, "This is the power of a spirit king? You actually know him?" This time, it was Dustless's turn to be shocked. Stunned, he said, "You actually know that this is the power of a spirit king? Even a captain-level Grim Reaper might not know what this thing was." Now that Jugram knew its name and origin, it could only mean one thing. "Looks like it's just as I guessed. You're also a part of the Spirit King's body? Oh no, all of you are also a part of my power." Dustless smiled. This would explain why Jugram knew that this was the power of a Spirit King. Chapter 1239. Habak felt a chill run down his spine. He originally thought that his immortal body was invincible. Who would have thought that he would encounter such a super cheating device that directly crushed Jugram without even having the slightest chance to retaliate? The confidence in his heart was easily shattered. Kill you and Jugra? How is that possible? I will never do such a stupid thing that will only cost me a lot. Dustless shook his head violently like a rattled drum and said, "You and Jugram are nourishment for me to become stronger. Kill the two of you? How is that possible? Wouldn't it be better for you to completely fuse with me?" A single sentence sent Habak to hell. His entire body instantly turned cold. No wonder Dustless didn't directly kill Jugram, but directly absorbed him. In a daze, Habak saw that the black pearl embedded in Dustless's chest was shining even brighter, and the power of the Spirit King was also becoming more abundant. "I definitely can't let this go. Even if I die, I will drag this brat to hell with me." Habak roared hysterically. He hated Dustless to the bone. If it wasn't for Dustless, his painstakingly planned plan wouldn't have failed. If it wasn't for Dustless, he might be standing in Dustless's perspective. The perspective of a god, experiencing the power that could shatter the heavens and shatter the earth with a raise of his hand. Boom, boom, boom. The spiritual particles in Habak's body surged, and his body continued to expand. 1 meter, 10 meters, 20 meters. 100 meters. His body continued to expand until he completely became a giant that could hold up the sky. This ability to expand seems to be the ability of his personal guards. How did this old brat get it? Speaking of which, why did Habak's personal guards disappear? Strange. Or has this old brat already given all of his personal guards to? His gaze once again focused on Habak's huge body. Dustless suddenly realized that the spiritual particles in his body were unimaginably strong, and a certain thought in his mind was proven. This old brat must have personally killed his personal guards after reviving them, and seized all of their abilities. TSK. What a ruthless heart. But I still have to thank you because your abilities will all be mine in the end. Dustless was overjoyed. He was determined to get Habak. This old fellow was a delicious cake. Inside the 6 crimson suns formation, Dustless's spiritual pressure increased. Boom, boom, boom. Whenever Habak moved, the earth would tremble and the mountains would shake. Mountains and rivers would shatter and boundless tremors would spread out. Die, you insignificant worm. A Habak opened its mouth and said disdainfully. It raised its big foot and charged towards Dustless. Poochie. However, the tragic thing was that before his foot landed, Habak let out a cry of pain and was crushed by the oncoming saber light. His huge body was instantly reduced to ashes. As if it felt that it wasn't cruel enough, the chakra in Dustless's body began to go berserk. His eyes were focused on Habak's enormous body. After a while, the surging eye power began to twist, and the black flames instantly swallowed Habak. Tens Ho. Chapter 1240. Habak howled in pain as the flames gradually crushed his entire body, pulling every part of his body into the flames. His hysterical screams caused everyone to tremble, and they felt a stabbing pain in the depths of their souls. It was as if he regretted living in this world. His screams made everyone involuntarily sympathize with the great demon king Habak. "It's wrong to go against me." Indifferently sweeping a glance at Habak, Dustless was expressionless. His entire being was as cold and desolate as ice. The Spirit King torrent that had stopped, once again transformed into a vast ocean and began to burst forth. The billows were turbulent, as if Habak had emerged from the vast ocean. Hateful. Seeing this, Habak quickly shrank his body, enduring the stinging pain all over his body, and left. For a cheater like Dustless, he had no intention to fight. Gulp. Just as he was about to muster all his strength to escape, the Spirit King torrent descended from the sky. In the blink of an eye, Habak was sucked into it. After powerlessly bubbling twice, he disappeared without a trace. It shouldn't be so easy to kill him. The Spirit King torrent occupied the whole world. Dustless looked down at the sky below, and after dozens of seconds he didn't notice any intention of Habak to come out. And? The relaxed eyebrows suddenly froze. Dustless suddenly realized that some kind of mysterious creature was eating the Spirit King torrent, like a hungry baby, extremely greedy. There should be Habak here. The energy of the Spirit King torrent was extraordinary, and it was like a veil blocking Dustless's sight. Even with the eye power of Rinnegan and Tensigan, Dustless couldn't see what was going on, but he vaguely caught the bottom. A giant black shadow was floating around, constantly swallowing the Spirit King torrent with its ugly big mouth. It's strange he can eat the Spirit King torrent? That's strange. The indifferent face showed interest, and Dustless was also quite curious for a while, staring at Habak. When his attention was focused on Habak again, he suddenly realized that he had disappeared, inexplicably disappeared. Ha ha ha. You want to kill me? It's not that simple. In the depths of the Spirit King torrent, Habak looked up at the sky, and noticed Dustless's puzzlement, and immediately showed an arrogant smile. However, Habak didn't feel proud for long. His body underwent a huge change, and the smile on the corner of his mouth stopped abruptly. He was surprised to find that the Spirit King torrent floating around, endlessly invading his body, as if his whole body was about to explode, and Habak was extremely uncomfortable for a while. "Since you like the power of Spirit King so much, then I'll give it all to you." With a wave of his hand, the Spirit King torrent that had spread throughout the entire Soul Society began to churn again. It was as if it had been hit by a level 10 wind, setting off huge waves, black waves dozens of meters high. There was only one target to attack: Habak. Bang bang. Habak began to sway. The waves came one after another, continuous and unending. Under such a concentrated attack, it was difficult for him to even stabilize his body, not to mention counterattacking Dustless. Especially with the Spirit King's power that was constantly pouring into his body, he had almost reached a bottleneck. He was very close to exploding and dying. Ka. In the end, Habak was unable to withstand the powerful force and finally exploded. His entire body turned into a pool of blood and disappeared without a trace. "You bastard!" Habak roared with all his might, his tone filled with endless hatred. At the same time, the Spirit King torrent that occupied the ground had completely disappeared, as if it had never appeared. On the other hand, Habak only had his head left. "I spared your life, yet you didn't even say a word of thanks. Instead, you're annoyed with me endlessly. You're really an animal." Dustless landed on the ground with a smile on his face. "I spent a lot of effort to keep you alive. Do you have any last words?" With Habak's corpse, all of the Spirit King torrent transformed into a part of Dustless's power and returned to the black energy ball embedded in his chest. "Last words? My only last words are to hold on to you." Oh. Before Habak could finish his clamor, a huge foot descended from the sky, revealing Dustless. With that, the Spirit King torrent under Dustless's feet became agitated again. With Habak's head, it was like a black hole that attracted the Spirit King torrent, constantly eroding it until it turned into nothingness. Time flew by, and in a flash, a few days had passed. Dustless had also finished dealing with the matters of Soul Society, and it was time to leave. At this moment, in the system world, there were a few more female confidants. Unohana Lai, Matsumoto Runju, Shiomu Rukia, Nero, Hellable, and the others were all present. Wuchen didn't care about their actions. Without any restrictions, they walked around casually. There was nothing wrong with getting to know other people. "Linger, are you going to change to the next world?" On the lush green grass, Dustless asked curiously with a piece of tender grass in his mouth. Yes. The girl nodded lightly, stroked the hair beside her ear, and smiled mysteriously. The power system might not be as good as yours, but you might find it interesting. I hope so. Dustless revealed an expectant smile. He rubbed his beautiful black hair, took a deep breath and said, "Then let's start as soon as possible. Although you are very strong now, when you pass through the space tunnel, you still have to be careful." Linger kindly reminded. The universe was incomparably vast, and there were too many mysterious creatures. There was nothing wrong with being careful. "Don't worry about this, I will definitely pay attention." Dustless gave her a don't worry look and patted his chest. Chapter 1241. Komodo Gakuin. In the endless black abyss, there was only eternal darkness and dead silence. Linger, that bastard. Could it be that there was an accident during the crossing? In the dead dark space, a ripple was set off. Dustless looked around speechlessly. The haze coincided with the cemetery in the depths of the universe, oppressing the nerves of human beings. Ka. At this moment, a big hole suddenly appeared in the east and a ray of light shot in. It contained a magical power and was very warm. It constantly tore the surrounding space, and the dark universe finally had some vitality. What is this thing? Looking at it, Dustless found that even with Rinnegan and Tensigan, he couldn't completely see through the white light. For a moment he hesitated. Although he was confident in his strength, he was still too far away from the realm of sweeping the universe. "That's the space tunnel, go quickly." At this moment Linger's ethereal voice sounded in Dustless's mind, reminding him, "I can't maintain it for long. This kind of thing is very wasteful of energy. Maybe something unexpected will happen." "Thank you for your hard work." Dustless thanked her seriously, and immediately, thousands of photons rushed out of his body and drilled into the space tunnel in the form of light speed. "Huge thanks to Linger, otherwise I will be alone in the endless universe in the future." In the stable space tunnel, Dustless's hanging heart calmed down, and he accelerated forward. Just when he was about to reach the exit, the stable space shook again. Oh no. Looking around, looking at the dense cracks, Dustless's heart was cold and he accelerated. Even if he didn't die in the explosion of the space tunnel, there would definitely be a big problem at that time. Boom boom boom. What was supposed to happen couldn't be avoided. Just as they were about to escape, the space tunnel was engulfed by flames, producing violent energy fluctuations. Dustless retreated one step slower and was blasted out of the tunnel by the powerful energy waves. In a strange world, thousands of miles of dark clouds, the sun was clear, and the whole world was full of vitality. It was very different from the world Dustless lived in before. It was much more stable and harmonious. Boom. A swarthy young man fell from the sky and crashed into the shade of a tree. His face was pitch black like a miner who had just come out of the ground. But even so, the young man's handsome facial features were hard to hide. His tall nose and chiseled face were especially attractive. Without a doubt, this person was Dustless. Just as he had expected, it would be very difficult for the spatial tunnel explosion to kill him. At most, it would bring him some trouble. Coincidentally, two young girls were passing by. Era. It's an unfamiliar face. Is he a new student? But what's with this getup? That doesn't seem to be the case. Chapter 1242. Junai stared at Dustless curiously. To be honest, she was very curious about this unexpected guest. Dustless? What a strange name. Her jade-like fingers gently touched her chin. Junai's playful expression was rather adorable in Wu Chen's eyes. This name is indeed strange, but I don't think I need to pay attention to such a small matter. Dustless sat back on the sofa and started to examine the layout of the room. It was very elegant and had a retro feel to it. The bookshelves were filled with books and had a scholarly atmosphere. "I'm sorry, I didn't think I would pay attention to such a small matter." Junai apologized sincerely. It was very rude to question someone's name and say it was strange. "You said you were hungry just now, right? I'll get you something to eat." Dustless lowered his head and thought about his current situation. He frowned and laughed bitterly in his heart. "Every time I come to a new world, I'll become a homeless person." Dustless was unfamiliar with this place and had nowhere to go. He could only stay here. And, what's with this outfit? How did I become a student again? Wu Chen realized that the clothes he was wearing had changed into full King Academy's uniform. He shook his body and walked to the side of the mirror subconsciously. He walked left and right, swaying left and right. In the end, Wu Qin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He realized that the brand new uniform fit him perfectly. Alala, alala, it looks very fitting. It's beautiful. Junai smiled as she walked over with the pastries. Her eyes were filled with surprise. Dustless was still covered in dirt half a month ago. Now that he had changed into a new uniform and had a mature temperament, he gave people a feeling that his eyes were shining. He had a sharp eye that could compete with Kibayuto or even surpass him. It was as if he had seen through the past. It was not something that Kibayuto could compare with. Dustless nodded as he looked at the exquisite pastries. They looked good and probably tasted good. He walked over and was about to pick up a piece when Junai suddenly bent over and started to make tea. Tisk tsk. Young ladies these days are all very promising. Because he was looking down from above, Junai's snow-white skin was exposed to Dustless's eyes. It was a feast for the eyes. Of course, after taking a peek, Dustless withdrew his gaze and didn't look further. Oh right, you're also a student of Chariot King Academy now. Sitting gracefully on the sofa, Junai said with a smile. She felt that Dustless was getting more and more pleasing to the eye. The only thing that she didn't dare to compliment was that Dustless looked rather thin and small. His strength shouldn't be that strong. Thank you. Dustless thanked him seriously. Then an idea flashed through his mind and he said, I wish to join the Supernatural Research Department. This, Himejima Jurai was stunned. Obviously he hadn't recovered from his shock. He stuttered for a long time but didn't say anything. Sorry, that won't do. Junai's tone was apologetic, and his attitude was unusually firm. What? Don't tell me you guys are discriminating against me? Dustless asked. He looked up and down and didn't feel like he had done anything wrong. That's not it, but our Supernatural Research Department isn't accepting people anymore. Junai rubbed her temples. She had a headache and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She couldn't just tell a human that all who joined were demons, and a human like him wasn't suitable. Bang bang bang. Right at this time, a violent exchange of punches and kicks attracted Dustless's attention. Walking to the side of the window and looking at the two figures fighting, a hint of surprise flashed across Dustless's eyes. Not bad. After a while, Dustless nodded. Indeed, Himejima Jurai agreed with a smile. Her beautiful eyes narrowed into a line. She looked very cunning. It's actually possible to join the Supernatural Research Department, but you have to defeat one of them. Junai purposely made things difficult for Dustless, wanting him to back off. Hearing that, Dustless had a strange expression. He blinked and asked with interest, Are you sure you won't regret it? Of course I'm sure. As long as you can defeat either Yudu or Kitten, I'll invite you to join the Supernatural Research Department. Half a month ago, another heavenly voice was heard. Riaz, who had just finished bathing, walked out of the bathroom. Her tall and slender figure was exposed. She was only wearing a simple bathrobe and half of her breasts were exposed. When she walked, her breasts looked like they were going to fall out of their sockets. The girl's figure was perfect, as if it was deliberately sculpted by the heavens. Dustless couldn't find a single flaw, as if it was created by the heavens to discourage people. That confident and noble aura as well as that perfect face, even a veteran like Dustless couldn't find fault with it. Diske. Dustless smiled and his calm eyes lit up. If that's the case, then let's begin. You're quite confident. Tilting her head, Riaz's interest was piqued. She looked at Himejima Jurai and said, Go and call them over. You can choose one of them. If you defeat either of them, I'll allow you to join the Supernatural Research Department. No need. Dustless shook his head. He didn't seem to understand, but he seemed to have given up in fear and lost interest. Are you planning to give up on this competition? Riaz let out a sigh of relief. She was quite troubled. Dustless was just a normal human, and if she accidentally injured him, it would be even more troublesome. Just as she was about to use her ability to erase Dustless's memory, she almost lost her balance due to the sudden sentence. Her eyes widened and she looked at Dustless in shock. What I mean is, choosing one of them is too troublesome. Chapter 1243. Riaz and Kimishima Jurai were both stunned when they heard this, and their minds were greatly shaken. Let me tell you, they are not playing a game. Riaz was speechless. She did not expect to save a teenager. She explained seriously, You can get hurt if you're not careful. I'm serious too. Wu Qin replied with a chuckle. He also had a serious expression on his face. Not only that, he glanced at the two of them with a hint of disdain. He stared at Riaz without blinking, quietly waiting for her answer. This brat is actually so hateful. He actually dares to look down on my kin. Seeing this, Riaz gritted her teeth. She had checked Dustless's body. Although he had trained well, it was only limited to the human level. Kiba and Kitten were her kin, real demons. Minister, Jurai Himashima approached Riaz and said, "Young people nowadays are all like this. Why don't you agree with him? Let him see his strength clearly and maybe he will back off." "You want me to back off?" Wu Qin chuckled when he heard this, and he couldn't help but shake his head. "No problem, I agree to your terms." Riaz finally accepted Dustless's terms. She treated it as bullying a kid. There was no one in the spacious training room, only a few people. "Minister, we are all demons. It's not good to bully a human," the handsome blonde boy frowned and said with hesitation. It was rare for him to question Riaz's decision. "I can't help it. He probably thinks that the supernatural research lab is fun." Riaz smiled bitterly and looked at Dustless, who was walking around like a curious baby. She said helplessly, "Whatever, Yudo and Kitten, please don't hurt him." "Yes, Minister." "Yes, Minister." Kitten and Kiba both agreed. Riaz was their minister after all. TSK. This world seems interesting. Magic? Interesting. Dustless walked around and touched his chin as he muttered to himself. Dustless is about to start." Kiba shouted. He didn't know that when he called Dustless a classmate, he felt very strange and awkward. Hearing this, Dustless nodded and walked over calmly under everyone's strange gazes. A mere human challenging a demon was definitely courting death. "Be careful." Shiba reminded Seiji in a friendly manner. Even if Seiji was just putting on an act, he might still injure Seiji. "No problem, I have thick skin." Dustless raised his hand and smiled. Then he activated the ability of the glint fruit. A large number of photons floated out of his body, and he instantly disappeared. "What's going on?" Kiba who did not react, exclaimed. Dustless was like a ghost, suddenly disappearing. Spatial magic? The naturally naive Kitten's expression also changed. She only saw Dustless's body flashing with a large amount of light, and then disappeared like light. Kitten, behind you." Riaz and Junai shouted and clenched their fists at the same time. The two of them did not realize what had happened. Dustless inexplicably appeared behind them, and the two who sensed the danger instinctively warned him. "This is considered a foul." Dustless looked at Riaz with a playful gaze and thought to himself, "Is this guy a ghost? Why is there no movement at all?" While Kiba and Kitten were in a daze, their fists had already smashed towards Seiji. Bang, bang. Their fists smashed through Dustless's body, but he was not affected at all. The place where the fists penetrated was shining. He really is a ghost. Kiba and Kitten looked at each other. Dustless was no different from a ghost without a physical body. His body was hollow. "It seems that I have to join this supernatural research lab," Dustless murmured, and at the same time, his body emitted a weak repulsive force. Shinra Tensei. Bang, bang. The repulsive force came and went quickly. The two of them did not even have time to react before they were sent flying. However, Wu Qin suppressed his strength to the minimum and did not hurt the two of them. Even if it was not for the sake of the monk, but for the sake of the Buddha, Riaz and Himashima Junai still treated Wu Qin quite well. "Is this enough, Ms. Minister?" Dustless turned his head and looked at Riaz and Junai, who were in a daze, with a kind smile. After a while, Riaz, who came back to her senses, blushed and looked at Dustless, not knowing what to do. She just said it for fun. She did not expect Dustless to really do it. "It's not over yet." A black shadow dashed toward him. Ordinary people could barely capture his face. So slow. But in Dustless's eyes, it was extremely slow. It refreshed his understanding of the past. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The moment the blade came, Dustless raised his arm in boredom. Clang clang clang. An even more exaggerated scene immediately played out. Dustless effortlessly grabbed the sword in Kiba hand as if he was grabbing a rough tree branch. Nothing happened at all. This is impossible," Kiba said in disbelief. His tone was sharp. He was very confident in his swordsmanship. Now that he was grabbed by someone with his bare hands, he was as shocked as if he had been struck by lightning. This guy called Dustless is definitely not ordinary. After carefully examining Dustless for a moment, Riaz's eyes changed. A guess in her mind was proven and she changed her mind. "Let's stop here. I can agree to your conditions. From now on you will be a..." Chapter 1244. Dustless said softly. He did not expect Riaz to agree so readily. What is this little girl planning? Dustless was curious. He felt that there was a conspiracy, but after thinking about it he decided to let it go. Absolute power could crush everything. My name is Riaz Gimli, and I am also the head of the Supernatural Research Lab. You will be one of our members in the future. Riaz walked gracefully to Dustless. Her expression was friendly and her figure was graceful. Her every move was full of seductiveness. The young girl exuded a fresh and refined temperament. It was very ethereal, seductive but not seductive. Hearing this, Dustless nodded. Just as he opened his mouth to ask about something, Riaz spoke first. There must be some unknown divine artifact in your body. Riaz's words hit Dustless hard. He was a being that was no less than a god. Why would he need something like a divine artifact? Shaking his head, Dustless pretended not to know anything and asked, "Divine artifact? That's a ghost. It's a long story. Let's talk in the room." Riaz beckoned Dustless to come to her side. Her actions were much more intimate. Looks like no matter which world it is, power is indispensable. Dustless muttered to himself. Only with power would one be respected. This was the law of all dimensions. After about an hour, Riaz told Dustless everything. It would have been better if she did not say anything. The more she talked, the more confused Dustless became. He had no interest in the fallen angels, demons, or whatever gods were involved in, including the so-called divine artifact. He came to this world just to relax. After going through 3 worlds, Naruto, One Piece, and Shinigami, one after another, Dustless was already exhausted. He needed to find a peaceful world to rest for a while. So, after a lot of preamble, Riaz finally got to the point. You're just an ordinary human being, yet you possess such great power and incredible abilities. This indirectly means that you have some kind of powerful and unknown divine artifact in your body. Become my kin, Dustless. Your dependents? Why do I feel like I'm your slave? Dustless felt that it was ridiculous. He was a dignified figure comparable to a goddess, yet he had inexplicably become the slave of a young girl. Wasn't he an idiot? I'm sorry, but I really don't have any reason to convince myself to become your dependent, Dustless said bluntly. That's true, Riaz's eyes dimmed. A person who had awakened a divine artifact, to become her dependent was something Riaz herself would not do. But, since I'm one of the students of the Supernatural Research Lab, if the head needs me I won't refuse, Dustless said with a chuckle, his tone sincere. After all, Riaz had helped Dustless once. If she had not taken in Dustless, he might have been thrown out while he was unconscious. Dustless also had a big problem that he needed her help with. Then Miss Head my place? At this point, Dustless blushed. It was his first time here, and he did not even have a place to stay. Allah Allah Allah. Stay at my place. A gentle voice came. It was quite unexpected. Looking closely, it was Jurai Himejima. Thank you. Dustless nodded and glanced at Jurai from the corner of his eyes. During the half a month of coma, Jurai had taken care of him. Jurai was kind and a good person. You're welcome. Jurai Himejima's eyes narrowed into crescents. His gentle face made people let down their guard, but Dustless caught a different meaning from his expression. This is a covert surveillance, right? It's not boring enough. Go ahead and have fun. Wu Qin shook his head secretly. He came to this world just to relax and live an ordinary life. He had had enough of the scheming and intrigue and the cruel war of life and death in the past. Alright, you and I are both in the 3rd grade. We're even in the same class and we're even desk mates. Riaz chuckled. The smile in her eyes was seductive. This is also a covert surveillance, right? Do young girls nowadays like to scheme so much? If that's the case, I might as well play with you. It'll be a way to relax. Dustless was relieved. His pale face was adorned with a gentle smile. Thank you, Miss Head. Since we're all under the same roof, you can call me Riaz like the others. Is that so? Then I won't stand on ceremony, Riaz. School only ended when it was close to noon. Dustless and Jurai Himejima went home side by side. When he stepped out of the Colt King Academy, Dustless attracted a lot of attention. Allah Allah Allah. You seem to be very popular, much more popular than you do. Hearing that, Dustless acted calmly and said softly, I'm used to it. No matter where I go, I'm always like this. You? Jurai Himejima was speechless. She did not expect Dustless to be so thick-skinned. It was just a compliment, but this guy accepted it shamelessly. Let's go. Ignoring the gazes around him, Dustless left with an unnatural expression. What he said before was the truth. No matter which world it was, he would always be the center of attention. Damn handsome guy, he just came and he already got Jurai Himajima. Even though they were 100 meters away, Dustless could still hear the complaints from afar. Looking over, it was the world's most famous scumbag trio. Hirudo Issei, who was called Brother Ching, and his two best friends. Chapter 1245. As if noticing Dustless's attention, the three of them hurriedly changed their faces into good-natured expressions, looking very sunny. That stiff expression looked quite funny, causing their cheeks to flush red, making people unable to restrain their laughter. The trio of amusing trio. After sighing, Dustless shook his head and followed Junai. As for Hirudo Issei and his good friend, Dustless directly ignored them. They were just insignificant pawns. Seeing Dustless's attention on Hirudo Issei, Junai quickly changed the topic and said, "No need to care about him, he is just... that guy is very different." Dustless didn't give Junai a chance to speak and abruptly interrupted her. "What do you mean?" Junai asked with an unnatural expression. "Nothing, I just think he is fun." Dustless helplessly touched his nose and smiled awkwardly. "Who are you trying to fool?" Junai curled her lips. She naturally knew that Dustless was bullshitting. After taking a deep look at Hirudo Issei, she looked away and pointed at the large supermarket in front of them and said, "I will help you buy some daily necessities later. Don't wander around, I won't be responsible if you lose them." Dustless didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Junai's words sounded like she was talking to a 3-year-old child. "Don't worry, I will wait for you at the door. Be good people like you." Junai nodded and walked away happily. "Really?" Looking at the gradually disappearing figure, Dustless sighed. He walked alone on the bridge not far away and looked down at the gurgling water below. The sparkling water reflected Dustless's silhouette. "Although it is a bit boring, this kind of life is quite suitable for me." With a peaceful smile on his face, Wuqian moved his stiff body. A series of crackling sounds were heard, which was crisp and pleasant to the ear. "Is it really this guy? He looks so innocent." In the dense forest on the bridge, a beautiful girl was hiding. Her eyes flickered with a hidden light. After hesitating for a while, she tidied up her appearance and finally ran over. "Are you Dustless?" The young girl was wearing a short skirt that exposed her white jade-like legs. Her appearance was rather cute. "You know me?" Dustless was stunned. He was in a daze. His expression was rather surprised. He laughed in his heart and said proudly, "Sure enough, being handsome is good. Someone took the initiative to seduce me." However, the girl's next words caused Dustless to vomit blood. "Then my name is Amano Shima, please date me." Hearing that, Dustless's mouth twitched violently. His heart was in a haze. He naturally knew who Amano Shima was. This guy was looking for a sucker. "Sorry, I already have a girlfriend." Dustless's attitude was firm. He said bluntly, attacking Amano Shima mercilessly. He pointed at the direction of the supermarket and said, "My partner is Junai. We are engaged." Engaged. The girl, Amano Shima, was petrified for a few seconds. She was extremely disappointed. TSK. "Chick, you want to fight with me? Grandpa is going to kill you today." Dustless laughed sinisterly in his heart. With a teasing expression on his face, he walked around Amano Shima and teased, "Seeing that you are not bad, if you are willing to do a few things for me, I don't mind cheating on you. I will reluctantly step on your pirate ship." Hearing that, Amano Shima's heart was screaming crazily. She was shocked and angry. She didn't expect Dustless to be so shameless. Especially when he said the words reluctantly, she almost went berserk. That aggrieved expression was as if Dustless was the one who suffered a great loss. It made Amano Shima furious. It wasn't that she was narrow-minded. It was just that Dustless's words were too infuriating. His expression was as if he had suffered a great humiliation. Amano Shima almost couldn't hold back the anger in her heart. However, she immediately remembered the order from the higher-ups. Amano Shima could only hold back the anger in her heart. She pretended to be excited and said, "Tell me, I will do my best." Although she looked like that on the surface, she was extremely sullen in her heart. TSK. What are the fallen thinking about? Do they also think that I have some *T divine equipment? How childish is this world? Perhaps when I passed through the space tunnel, there was a huge explosion that attracted their attention. That's why they suspect that I have some divine equipment. That's probably why Leith took me in. Dustless saw the change in Amano Shima's expression and remembered it in his heart. "But since you have chosen to continue playing, then I will play with you until you break down." Dustless sneered. A devilish smile flashed by the corner of his mouth. He walked to Amano-shima's side with a teasing smile and said, "You can be my girlfriend, but there is a condition. First, you must fulfill the responsibility of a girlfriend." Hearing that, Amano-shima's mouth twitched. Looking at Dustless's despicable smile, she wanted to slap him to death. Just when she was about to refute, Dustless sealed her excuse with a sentence. "I have already tried it with Junai. She is very obedient. If you don't even listen to me, then I'm sorry, but I don't think we will be suitable." After saying that, Dustless turned around and left. He was not afraid that Amano-shima would not agree, but he purposely slowed down his pace. This fellow can't be doing it on purpose, right? Amano-shima's face darkened. Her beautiful face was already twisted. After thinking for a while, she finally gritted her teeth and followed Dustless's footsteps. That, no matter what it is, I can promise you. If Miss Junai can do it, then I can do it too. I might even be better than her. Hearing this, the mischievous smile on Wu Chen's face became even more pronounced. Chapter 1246. Hearing this, Dustless laughed even harder. He waited for so long just to hear what Amano-shima said. It would be a pity if he didn't eat the meat that was sent to his mouth. Rubbing his chin, Dustless walked around Amano-shima and said, "First, my shoulders are a bit sore. You have to give me a massage." Amano-shima's eyes twitched a few times. She continued to force a smile and said, "This doesn't seem to be the right place. After all, we are in public. You can't just stand there and let me massage your waist and legs, right?" "So what if I'm standing? Can't I?" Dustless did not answer and asked back. Amano-shima was speechless. Although most of the massages were done by lying down, no one said that one could not stand. All right then. Amano-shima was helpless. She could only admit defeat. Her delicate hands went to Dustless's left and right shoulders to check. "And although it's a bit rough, your technique is not bad." Dustless felt it for a while. His eyes flashed. Not bad. Some people were born to wait on others. Some special skills could be compared to professional masters without any training. Kid, you better have some value. If not, I will make you regret living in this world." Amano-shima was furious. She was so angry that she clenched her teeth. However, she could only watch helplessly. Currently, she could only listen to Dustless. "How is it? How do you feel?" Amano-shima said in a coquettish voice. She sounded cute, and her words revealed a touch of charm. She was a real vixen. If Dustless did not have the experience of a few worlds, he might have been tricked by Amano-shima. Not bad. Dustless was enjoying it. However, what he said was the complete opposite. "You, forget it." Amano-shima suppressed the anger in her heart. She had no choice but to slow down her strength. "The rhythm is slow again, then I will speed up a bit." "Why are you so clumsy?" "My Junai is very good at this." "Then I'll slow it down a bit." My leg hurts. I must have sprained my ankle when I fell. Shima, help me massage it." "You want me to massage your feet?" "Yeah, that's the prerequisite to becoming my girlfriend." For more than 10 minutes, Dustless used all kinds of reasons to make things difficult for the girl. Fortunately, she had a good temper and endured some unreasonable conditions. TSK, compared to my girlfriend, you are more suitable to be my maid." After a while, Wu Chen's words made Amano-shima choke with anger. She suppressed her anger and said coquettishly, "Qinjun, are you despising me?" Wu Chen was speechless. "Don't call me that." Glancing at Amano-shima, Dustless's tone suddenly became cold. The only person who would call him that was Unohana Retsu. Those were beautiful memories, and Dustless didn't want anyone to destroy them. I understand." Amano-shima's mouth was trembling unnaturally as she said meekly. However, her heart was in turmoil. She could smell the supreme aura from Dustless's tone. At that moment, it was as if a god was right in front of her and he could easily crush her. I. Hurry up and massage my arm. We will do something interesting later." Dustless's eyes were shining as he said. Just now it was really an illusion. How can this guy be a god? Amano-shima mocked in her heart and scolded herself for being ignorant. She didn't expect that she would still have such an illusion. She opened her mouth and was about to say something. Suddenly her lips felt cold and hot. To be more specific, it was the feeling of ice and fire fusing together. You bastard!" Amano-shima was petrified. Just now when she was in a daze, Wu Chen snatched away her first kiss at an ungodly speed. "What are you looking at? This is a compulsory course for you to be my girlfriend." Wu Chen laughed incomparably in his heart. That warm and cool touch just now. This time Wuchen felt that he had earned a lot in his heart. From Amano Shima's jerky movements and the blue veins that suddenly appeared on her forehead, Wuchen knew that she was still a fledgling. You still want to scheme against me? I will make fun of you today. Dustless thought coldly. He turned his gaze and stared at Amano Shima's shaking meatball. His eyes were filled with cunning. Gulp. Amano Shima choked and subconsciously stepped back. She was really scared of Dustless. This guy looked like a gentleman with delicate features. However, he was actually a despicable and shameless person. Ma-chan-shi, don't you want to be my girlfriend? These are all compulsory courses. Wuchen said unhappily with a straight face, making a very dissatisfied expression. It's too early. We are still young. Amano Shima found a lame excuse. Even she felt that it was a fantasy. So what? If we are honest with each other now, it will help us in the future. Dustless slowly approached Amano Shima and revealed a scary smile. Amano Shima had goosebumps all over her body. It seems like they are coming out. At this moment, Dustless suddenly said. When she looked over, it was Himejima Jurai who was holding a few bags of daily necessities. Seems like Miss Shima is still not ready. Forget it. See you next time. After saying that, Dustless turned into a gust of wind and ran away. Amano Shima was left in a daze. What is this? Amano Shima was stunned. She touched her lips and felt that her lungs were about to explode. Today Dustless used her as a maid and ordered her around for a while. After that, her first kiss was taken away from her. What made her furious was that she did not even get a single strand of hair. Chapter 1247. Amano Shima was so angry that she stomped her feet. She was here to be Dustless's girlfriend. Who would have thought that she would be played like this? Her bones were cracking. She will probably come to me again in the future. Dustless muttered to himself. After suffering such a huge loss, Amano Shima would definitely think of a way to make up for it. Allah Allah Allah. Classmate Wu Qin is indeed very popular. It hasn't been long and someone is already trying to hit on her. Junai's beautiful eyes flashed with surprise as she looked at Amano Shima's disappearing figure. Hearing this, Dustless smiled and said softly, Hitting on me? No, she's just lost in life and I'm just giving her directions. You can't even lie to a 3-year-old kid. Junai shook her chin and didn't ask further. After all, this was Dustless's private matter. You bought so many things. Looking at the bags that Junai was carrying, Dustless frowned. Then he took the initiative to help her carry a few bags like a gentleman. Don't take them. Seeing this, Junai immediately panicked. Unfortunately, it was too late. The bags were already taken away by Dustless. It's not a bag of money. Do you have to be so excited? Dustless muttered to himself. He subconsciously looked at the plastic bag from the corner of his eyes and vaguely saw purple clothes. So it's underwear and it's purple. Seeing this, Dustless was enlightened. He quietly looked away and pretended that nothing had happened. Junai also took the opportunity to take the plastic bag. She said unhappily, Take this. Then, Junai threw the plastic bag that was filled with all kinds of daily necessities to Dustless. There were all kinds of daily necessities such as toothbrushes and towels. This guy did it on purpose. Junai's face was red. She suddenly bought underwear because she liked it. She thought that it would be fine even if she didn't deliberately package it. Who knew that Dustless would take it away? Hurry up and go home. Creak. The sliding door was gently pushed open, and a warm and beautiful light suddenly shone into the dark room. Dustless followed Junai into the house. Because she was a witch, the decorations in the house were relatively simple. Even so, it was still very exquisite. Dustless behaved quite casually. After walking around twice, he casually found a seat and sat down. After wandering around for a whole day, I'm really tired, Dustless said tiredly as he stretched his back. Very tired? If I hadn't come out in advance, you two would have been chatting happily. I feel like I've ruined your good time. Hearing this, Junai rolled his eyes and pointed to the end of the corridor. The bathroom is there. Dustless didn't say anything. He stood up and walked over. About an hour later, Dustless came out of the bathroom wearing a simple bathrobe. I've just tidied up your room. It's upstairs. Junai pointed at the stairs. Fearing that Dustless had a bad sense of direction, Junai walked up in advance to lead the way. Dustless followed closely behind. Seems like it's been a while. When he walked, the old wooden stairs would creak and creak. It sounded very unstable. Ka ka ka. At this moment, Junai, who was leading the way, suddenly lost her balance and stepped on the soles of her feet. Damn it, my attention was focused on this kid. Xuanhuan smiled bitterly in her heart. She knew that she was going to fall. Her attention was focused on Dustless. A moment of carelessness was destined to be a tragedy. Be careful. Just as she was about to fall, Wu Chen caught her waist that could be said to be slender. This touch is also of the highest quality. While Xuanhuan was in a daze, Dustless touched her waist twice. The warm and cool feeling was irresistible, and then he withdrew his arm. Oh, thank you, Dustless. Xuanhuan quickly broke free from Dustless's right arm. Her face was red like a ripe apple, extremely cute. I'll go up myself. You should go rest too, Xuanhuan. After saying that, Dustless brushed past Xuanhuan. He was really tired. It was not until the next morning when school started that Dustless crawled out of bed. He did not eat dinner the night before, and only had 2 bites of breakfast in the morning. The more I live, the more backward I get. I'm going to school again. Thinking about his ridiculous experience, Dustless was speechless. He was also someone who had experienced a few worlds. He was at least 100 years old, and now he was going back to school. Was a bit funny. After school today, don't go back first. Gather at the club, Supernatural Research Lab. Ria said she had something to do. When they approached the school gate, Xuanhuan said goodbye to Dustless and walked to their respective classes. Dustless nodded slightly. Just as he was about to walk to his class, he suddenly felt a gaze filled with resentment. Strange, I don't think I've offended anyone in this world. Why would there be someone? So it's her. His eyes flashed, and Amano Shima clenched her teeth entered his vision. Dustless laughed and ignored her. She would come to him anyway. In the brightly lit class. Why are you only here now? Class is about to start. As soon as he stepped into the classroom, under everyone's shocked gaze, Rias grabbed Dustless and dragged Dustless to sit beside her. Sorry I woke up late. Dustless scratched his head awkwardly and said embarrassedly. Then he remembered that his desk mate was Rias. Chapter 1248. During class, Dustless could not help but doze off as he listened to the bird language that he could not understand. No matter when, he hated going to school. Before he transmigrated, he had the title of Bottom of the 10,000 Years. It was the same now. As he listened, he began to doze off. Did you die from dozing off in your previous life? Rias was speechless. Looking at Dustless's sleeping face, she did not know whether to laugh or cry. Dustless, wake up. Rias said as she poked Dustless's arm. However, Dustless was obviously in a deep sleep and did not react at all. You. Nilia was helpless. She reached out her white hand and poked Dustless's face again. After a while, her expression was extremely unnatural. This guy's skin is so smooth. The warm skin stunned Rias. A hint of jealousy flashed in her beautiful eyes. She was a teenage girl, but her skin was not as good as a boy's. The soft touch had some elasticity and was very smooth. Rias could not help but touch her own skin and compare it with Dustless's. She was shocked to find that her skin was not as good as Dustless's. It was very rough. Dustless, who was sleeping soundly, frowned. He sniffed and a fragrance entered his nostrils. He subconsciously opened his dry lips. Her slender fingers were buried in Dustless's mouth. Ah, damn it, it hurts. Rias said in pain. She stood up instinctively. On her fingers, the bite marks were clearly visible. Rias, is there something wrong? The teacher looked at Rias and frowned. Hearing that, Rias was stunned. She stuttered for a long time but could not say anything. She could only clench her teeth and feel extremely embarrassed. I accidentally bit her hand just now. Sorry. Dustless stood up and admitted, smiling embarrassedly. Be careful in class next time. Sit down. Only then did Dustless and Rias take their seats. Rias blushed as she looked at Dustless's teasing face and said, Are you a pig? You can sleep so well? No. I dreamt that when I was eating, I thought I was eating a chicken leg. Dustless teased. Drumstick? Hearing this, Rias looked at Dustless in surprise and said with disdain, I didn't know you were a foodie. As if remembering something, Rias stopped talking and quickly realized that something was wrong. Dustless dreamt that he was late for the chicken drumstick. He was obviously hinting that her finger was a chicken drumstick. Rias's pretty face darkened. She did not expect to fall into Dustless's trap unknowingly. I was praising you. Your hand made me taste like a chicken drumstick. Diske, you're amazing. Dustless praised sincerely, his face full of admiration. Hearing that, Rias rolled her eyes in annoyance and glared at her fiercely, ignoring Wu Chen's existence. When school was over in the afternoon in the supernatural research room, the dim light did not change and was very dim, but one could still vaguely make out a few silhouettes. Rias Jimenez, Juno Himejima, Kitten Yudo Kiba, and of course Dustless with a sloppy face. The atmosphere was a little tense. Everyone was silent and their expressions were serious. There were a few photos of various occasions on the table. Looking up, Dustless realized that he knew him too. Hyuda Issei. This scumbag king is still being noticed. Maybe it's because of the so-called divine artifact in his body. Dustless pondered and looked at Ria subconsciously. This little girl might have been observing Hyuda Issei for a long time. Let's keep an eye on him for now. Don't disturb his life, Ria said after a while. But director, what if he's killed? But if we keep an eye on Hyuda Issei, there might be others keeping an eye on Hyuda Issei. Yudo Kiba said rationally. What he meant was that others might have their eyes on Hyuda Issei as well. This blonde girl is quite smart. Dustless looked at Yudo Kiba in surprise. Just as Yudo Kiba said, Amano Shima of the fallen angel probably also noticed Hyuda Issei. Not only Hyuda Issei, but even Dustless himself was her target. Isn't it better if he's killed? Then he can become someone else's dependent. Plus, some people need to die once to understand some things. A cold voice broke the tense atmosphere. Looking over, it was Dustless. Hearing this, a cold smile appeared on Riaz's face as she nodded. You have a point. Time passed quickly. When it was close to evening, it was time for school to end. The students of Kumo Academy all went home. Dustless was no exception. However, this time he was not with Junai. Instead, he stood alone. I'm standing at the school gate. If you can't see me, then your eyes are really blind. Wu Qin muttered to himself, saying inexplicable words. At the same time, a girl noticed Dustless's presence. Her face lit up and she quickly ran over. Dustless, are you waiting for me? Amano Shima asked expectantly. She had two cute dimples on her face. Of course I'm waiting for you. Wu Qin said with a smile, the corners of his mouth raised high. Shima, this time no one will disturb us. We can continue the unfinished activity from last time. Hearing this, Amano Shima's eyelids twitched. Her eyes were filled with killing intent. However, she still nodded stiffly. I'll accept all your orders. I'm going to kill you this time. Dustless laughed coldly. Chapter 1249. Looking at the forced smile on the girl's face, Dustless's heart was as cold as a stone. He had no sympathy for her. If Shima Amano didn't approach him, he wouldn't have asked for a snub. Since she wanted to scheme against Dustless, then sorry, if people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If people offend me, I'll pay them back 100 times. This was Dustless's principle. Let's go, Shima-chan. Dustless smiled and pulled Shima Amano away after blowing a breath of hot air beside her ear. While pulling Shima Amano away, Dustless's fingers didn't stay idle. He carefully felt her warm and cool skin. It was like a beautiful jade. It was very comfortable to touch and there wasn't a single flaw. It made him unable to put it down. Dustless felt more and more that he should take this seductress as his own. This guy, I'll just find a place where there's no one and kill him. He's just a nuisance to me. Shima Amano had a beautiful smile on her face, but she was cursing in her heart. In just 2 days, she had almost become Dustless's private property and was being exploited in various ways. Then, Dustless, where are we going? Shima Amano's face was red as she nervously pinched the corner of her clothes. Are we going to get a room? When she said those words, Shima Amano wanted to slap herself. Looking at Dustless's smiling face, she felt like punching him. He was even more disgusting than an enemy demon. Dustless was stunned. He stared at Shima Amano in a daze. After observing her for more than 10 seconds, he sighed softly. Get a room, my ass. She probably wants to test me. If there's the so-called magical thing in my body, she'll kill me. If there's nothing, she'll kill me. Dustless sneered as he caught the hidden killing intent in the corner of Shima Amano's eyes. He rolled his eyes and secretly planned. If I get a room with her now, this show will definitely end early. I can't do that. I haven't had enough fun yet. Dustless shook his head and refused loudly. How can that be? Am I that kind of person? I'm angry. I'm going home. Go play by yourself. Seeing this, Amano Shima's face twitched as he looked at Dustless's back view. He cursed in his heart. You're even harder to serve than the high and mighty demon king. Amano Shima cursed madly in her heart. She was incomparably depressed. She forcefully suppressed the surging killing intent in her heart. After stomping her feet, she still resolutely chased after him. She only wanted to find a suitable place to check if there were any divine artifacts. If there weren't any, she would kill him. Now that Dustless was so uncooperative, Amano Shima could only continue to play along with him, tolerating Dustless in all aspects. In other words, she still had to continue being a maid. Dustless, I think you misunderstood me. Amano Shima, who was being toyed with, had no choice but to continue her act. This fellow, could it be that he is purposely acting dumb in front of me? Yugan Momo's face was filled with suspicion. She instinctively felt that Dustless was doing it on purpose. Chapter 1250. Dustless's shamelessness and treachery refreshed Amano Shima's understanding. Originally, when she saw his disgusted expression, she thought that although Dustless was despicable, he was still somewhat reliable. However, it seemed that she was too naive. It was a huge mistake. You can't take off your clothes. Amano Shima's attitude was firm, there was no room for negotiation. Her face was as thin as paper, she wasn't like Dustless. That means you're going to agree to my condition? Dustless nodded his head firmly and smiled. This is one of the necessary lessons to become my girlfriend. Seeing that, Amano Shima snorted in her heart. Dustless's shameless condition was to use her little mouth to do those immoral things. This was obviously more serious than getting a hotel room. I can't do that. After thinking for a while, Amano Shima thought, this guy really thinks that I'll listen to everything he says. He's just like a kid who hasn't grown up yet. Just at this moment, Amano Shima's eyes flashed with a hint of light. The words that were about to come out of her mouth were taken back. That's not right. Isn't this the chance that I've been looking for? Amano Shima's face flashed with a hint of cunning. She pursed her lips and changed her mind. She smiled and said, all right, I'll do my best to let you float to the clouds. When you fall in the end, don't fall to your death. Amano Shima kept her smile and added another sentence in her heart. She had been looking for a chance to be alone with Dustless. Getting a hotel room now was the best time. Dustless wanted to take advantage of her, so she could use this chance to ask if there was any divine weapon. If there wasn't, Amano Shima swore that she would let Dustless experience the cruelest way to die in the world. Let's go. Dustless winked at Amano Shima and smiled. However, maybe it was God who wanted to destroy Dustless's good thing. The few places that they opened were all full. Until dusk, the two of them still hadn't found a suitable place. This is an unlucky year. Dustless sat on a bench in the park and looked up at the sky. He said angrily, there are so many brothel patrons these days, that's really disappointing. Amano Shima said. At the same time, she noticed that there was no one around. Her cold eyes approached Dustless. She had already decided to kill Dustless here. It didn't matter if she had a divine artifact or not. This bastard was simply too good at tormenting people. Amano Shima even felt that if this continued, she would be driven crazy. I really had a good time today. Amano Shima also sat on the bench and pretended to be gentle as she leaned on Dustless's body. She gently rubbed Dustless's arm with one hand while she took out a shining sharp weapon with the other hand. Therefore, in order to commemorate these few days. So, please die. Finishing her words, Amano Shima stabbed towards Dustless's chest. Her method was extremely ruthless and contained boundless hatred. However, she did not go for the kill. She still wanted to torture Dustless to get back the interest. Poochie. Blood splattered everywhere. A hole was immediately pierced through Dustless's abdomen. It was badly mutilated and looked extremely frightening. One could even vaguely see all kinds of organs inside. Dustless's face also immediately became extremely pale. Damned brat, you're done for. Amano Shima laughed happily. She was very sinister and frightening. Her dancing appearance made her abnormally terrified. Seeing that you have worked so hard, I will accompany you to play. Dustless, who was originally planning to heal the wound, stopped. He pretended to be in pain and said, I have not treated you badly. Why are you so cruel? Not treated me badly? Hearing this, Amano Shima almost fell down. These few days she was completely like an animal being ordered around by Dustless. This bastard was now shamelessly saying that he had not treated her badly. Go. Please let me go. Dustless's tone was incomparably weak. It was as if he was begging for mercy. Actually, he was looking forward to what would happen next. He wanted to see how this fallen angel was going to show her other side of charm. I will definitely not let you die so easily. I will let you live a life that is worse than death. Also, looking at your useless appearance, you don't even have a divine equipment. Amano Shima curled her lips and said in disdain. Staring at this extremely annoying little face, Amano Shima's flame index soared. Her Chuan was already snatched away by Dustless. Killing him casually would be too much of a loss. Brat, aren't you very lustful? Thinking about Dustless's character, Amano Shima's exquisite little face had an evil smile. Hearing this, Dustless frowned. Looking at Amano Shima's sickly smile, he suddenly felt that there was something wrong with this woman's head. She might be able to think of all kinds of crazy ideas. Originally I wanted to play house with you. However, the opponent is actually a pervert. Looks like I should just forget about it. Dustless's mood was waning. Ignoring the wounds on his body, he had already stood up. Amano Shima was startled. Veins popped out on her forehead. Without a doubt, the pervert that Dustless was talking about was her. She turned her gaze. When she looked at Dustless with a gaze as sharp as a knife, the wounds on his body had already healed. The mangled wounds were no longer there. What replaced them was bright and clean skin. The playful expression in her eyes also disappeared. Dustless's expression gradually turned cold. The cold light in his eyes directly affected the changes in the surrounding air. A suffocating pressure filled the air. Since I have nothing to do, I wanted to play with you. However, since you have already destroyed the rules of the game, there is no need for me to continue to abide by them. After saying that, the light on Dustless's right arm floated. The golden Kusanagi sword condensed and formed. Chapter 1251. Amano Shima felt that all the secrets in her life were exposed under Dustless's eyes. Her entire body was seen through, even the most secretive part of her body was no exception. What kind of eyes are those? Sensing the abnormality in Dustless's eyes, Amano Shima's soul felt as if it was struck by lightning. She retreated unconsciously. However, Amano Shima stopped her footsteps very quickly. Those two pitch-black eyes were like the eyes of God that occupied the top of her head. No matter if she ran to the end of the world or to the end of the world, it seemed that as long as Dustless thought about it, she would immediately perish. Damn it. My brain must have been damaged by this fella for the past 2 days. Why would I have such an illusion? He is not a god. Amano Shima shook her head vigorously. She treated the thought just now as an illusion. The person in front of her was just a good-looking man who liked to tease others. At the same time, he was also a lecherous man. You still want to struggle? It seems like you are not ready. Amano Shima's hand was glowing. A light spear was held in her hand. How ignorant is this little girl these days? Dustless was too lazy to argue with her. As the saying goes, if you are serious, you will lose. There was no need to be angry with a little girl. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. A gust of wind suddenly came from the front. Dustless raised his eyebrows. Before he had the time to take a look, an ice-cold strong light suddenly pierced towards him. Go to hell. Her strong body was filled with an indescribable divine light. Her attack was ruthless and merciless as she pierced towards Dustless. TSK. Do you hate me so much? Do you have to destroy my face? Dustless said helplessly. He then waved the Kusanagi sword in his hand. Golden ripples splashed in midair. The light spear that was coming towards him immediately had an unavoidable change. Poochie. The light pierced through the spear and split it into two easily. Dustless's casual look gave people the feeling that he was having a meal. This. Amano Shima was dumbfounded. He said this 3 times in a row. His pupils dilated and he was so shocked that he was speechless. Swish, swish. Facing the violent hurricane, Amano Shima floated in the air, his 2 black wings flapping vigorously. Does this guy really have some kind of powerful divine artifact in his body? Amano Shima cried out in alarm. Her intestines were green with regret. Moreover, judging from Dustless's current fighting strength, he was already able to completely control the divine artifact in his body. I have to kill him or I'll be finished. The expression in Shima Amano's eyes changed rapidly, and he sentenced Dustless in his heart. Buzz buzz buzz. Her jade-like hand shook, and the broken light spear on the ground began to vibrate. Then, under Amano Shima's control, it flew back and healed itself. Looking at the calm Dustless, his bottomless strength not only didn't make Shima Amano stop, but instead aroused her savage nature. Swish, swish. This time, the number of spears of light that were descending had increased dramatically, causing Shima Amano's anger to rise. Boring. Seeing this, Dustless's mind was already waning. He released a repulsive force from his body and knocked away all the spears of light. Shinra Tensei. The repulsive force formed a perfect defense circle that resisted everything. This kind of insignificant attack was naturally not affected at all. Bang bang bang. The spears of light that wanted to punch a hole in Dustless were all bounced away by the absolute defense and fell to the ground powerlessly. I'll just retreat. Shima Amano, who realized the gap between them, was helpless. She flapped her wings even faster. Since she couldn't win, she would only be humiliating herself if she stayed, so she might as well run. Did I say you can leave? When Shima Amano flapped her wings and left, Dustless's cold voice sounded. He stared at Shima Amano and circled her. You can leave, but at least leave something behind. Arrogant. Shima Amano's beautiful eyes were hazy. She came here full of confidence, but in the end she had to run away pathetically. Her heart was already bursting with anger. Now, Dustless ignited the fire in her heart again. She screamed, "So what if I don't come down? If you can fly to the sky and catch me, you can take anything from me." As soon as she finished speaking, Shima Amano suddenly felt that her body was much lighter. Just when she was about to speak, her throat felt like it was blocked by someone. It was hard for her to speak. Shima Amano, who realized that something was wrong, quickly widened her eyes. Her beautiful eyes instantly reflected Dustless's face. She saw Dustless's right arm locking Shima Amano's throat. Like a rabbit, he simply grabbed her in the air. "Let go of me." Shima Amano's mind went cold for a few seconds. She struggled with all her might and shook her entire body. But what made Shima Amano collapse was that Dustless wasn't moved at all. He was like a towering mountain. Her weak strength wasn't enough to move him at all. Dustless maintained his calm. After staring at Shima Amano's flushed face for a long time, he said softly, "The game is over." "Not yet." Shima Amano's eyes flashed with a trace of cunning. Her two wings were like a huge hand that smashed over with a silver spear. Light spear. Looking at the incoming spear, Dustless praised, "It's good to be able to prepare for a rainy day. Unfortunately, you're still too weak." At such a close distance, Dustless didn't even dodge. When the spear tip was about to destroy his eyes, it stopped. "Don't play this kind of child's game in the future. You've already grown up." Dustless lectured as he easily caught the light spear. "TSK, you're now my trophy. You said that I can take anything from you if I catch you." Chapter 1252. Amano Shima's face turned black. She was defeated by Dustless's overwhelming strength. She felt extremely aggrieved. Both of them were from two different dimensions. Especially Dustless's words just now, it made her even more fearful. She already had someone she liked. If she was forced by Dustless, Amano Shima's body trembled when she thought of this. Her face was filled with fear and lingering fear. She was already in despair, but when she thought of the seriousness of the matter, she started to resist again. Light spear. Silver light flickered between his hands, and a slender long spear instantly condensed and took shape. Whoosh. Gritting her teeth, Amano Shima used all her strength to control the light spear and threw it out. Clang, clang, clang. The delusion of flipping the cards was beautiful, but the reality was extremely cruel. Facing Dustless's absolute strength, Amano Shima had no strength to resist at all. Her attack was like cotton and had no effect on Dustless. The scene was exactly the same as before. The light spear was caught by Silver Sky. Ka, ka, ka. In the end, with a little bit of strength, the sturdy light spear turned into broken glass and scattered with the wind like snowflakes. Kiki. From today onwards you are my slave. Oh no. From today onwards you are my servant. Dustless smiled and changed his words. He stared at Amano Shima's voluptuous body without restraint. "I already have someone I like. Even if you can get my body, you can forget about getting my heart. I advise you to, who wants your heart? Don't be too self-righteous." Dustless curled his lips in disdain and sneered, "I am not interested in your broken heart. Coincidentally, I am only interested in your body. As for your heart, it is good that it is broken." Hearing this, the veins on Amano Shima's forehead popped out. Her killing intent was everywhere. Her endless grievances seemed to have touched the heavens. In an instant, the heavens seemed to be standing on Amano Shima's side. Whoosh, whoosh. Her wings flapped lightly, and a few light spears rolled out from her back. "Disappear." Amano Shima gritted his teeth and said. Soon after, numerous spears rained down like a torrential rain. "This fellow. If I don't teach her a lesson, she'll really think that I'm a gentleman who cares about women. After being continuously provoked, Dustless gradually became angry. He didn't know when to advance or retreat, and he knew when to stop. Everything had a bottom line. Shinra Tensei. Bang bang bang. The repulsive force surged and once again easily deflected the attacking radiance. Dustless's eyes flickered with destructive radiance. Just as he was planning to ruthlessly destroy Amano-shima, a sudden change occurred. Puchi. An unexpected sound of a body being cut into pieces suddenly rang out. Amano-shima and Dustless were both stunned, and their gazes looked over at the same time. It would have been better if they didn't look. Chapter 1253. Dustless naturally didn't feel guilty. Maybe it was because he had done a lot of bad things, but Dustless could face something as trivial as going against his conscience. Reward? What kind of reward? Dustless couldn't help but stare at Ria's voluptuous body. He suddenly remembered one of her special habits, and a strange smile appeared on his face. Director. At this moment, two concerned voices were heard. So it's them. Dustless's brain was working at full capacity when he saw Kiba Yuto and Kitten. Director, this Hyuta Kazunari is too dangerous. Why don't we let him become someone else's dependent? Dustless suggested with a chuckle. Makes sense. Zhu Naihao was on the same side as Dustless, and he also supported this suggestion. Ria's Hyuta Issei's reputation is indeed bad, so it's necessary to take proper precautions. We all know what kind of person he is. Your habit of sleeping in the nude and wearing revealing clothing needs to be changed. That's right, Zhu Naihao is right. Dustless nodded and looked at Zhu Naihao's serious face. He secretly gave him a thumbs up. This was exactly what he wanted. Hyuta Kazunari should just die. No problem, I'll remember. A look of approval flashed across Ria's face. She then nodded silently, agreeing with Wu Chen and Junai's thoughts. Oh right. Dustless's eyes flashed with a cunning look and he said, Ria's Hyuta Kazunari is known as the Gourmet Devil. He is a complete pervert. Ria's frowned and looked at Dustless suspiciously. She felt that there was a hidden meaning in his words. If you have something to say, just say it, Lias said. Hearing this, Dustless looked at him strangely, nodded, and said, What I mean is, let Hyuta Kazunari become someone else's dependent. It doesn't have to be a director, for example, Kiba's dependent. Dustless said with a smile as he looked at Issei in the pool of blood. If you don't mind, I'm fine with it as well. Kiba Yuto seemed to be used to being submissive. After a slight smile, he agreed. No. Ria shook her head stubbornly. Her firm and high-spirited tone made it seem like she was determined to get Hyoto Kazunari. Let him become my dependent. I will pay attention to certain details in the future. Wu Chen opened his mouth but eventually shut it. After all, Li Yasi was the department head and he had no right to interfere with other people's decisions. If he insisted on it, he would be hated by the other party. Without any hindrance, Hyoto Kazunari successfully became a reincarnated demon and Ria's kin. Time passed quickly, and it was evening in the blink of an eye. On the way home, Dustless and Junai walked side by side. Dustless, you seem to have a problem with Hyoto Kazunari. Junai broke the silence and smiled at Dustless. Her graceful figure was particularly eye-catching, especially her breathtaking curves, which made Dustless a little dazed. Are you trying to seduce me? Dustless's imagination ran wild. At the same time he said righteously, I'm worried about your safety. After all, that guy is an Iraka mad demon. Is that so? Junai blinked her bright eyes. She was obviously suspicious, but after noticing that Dustless's expression was normal, she did not ask further. But, Dustless, you are really good to be able to defeat that fallen angel. After a while, Junai suddenly changed the topic. Just an insignificant low-level fallen angel. With his hands on his head, Dustless looked left and right. He was bored. Insignificant? Junai heard his words and rolled her eyes at Dustless. In the end, she also laughed at herself. Different realms meant that their worldviews were different. The two talked and laughed on the way home. After a while, they slowly reached home. Dinner was still made by Junai. Dustless did not have the attribute of cooking, so everything was done by Junai. Perhaps because Junai was too tired after dinner, she took a shower and quickly went to sleep. At night, Dustless, who was lying in bed, was quite bored. He tossed and turned and could not sleep for a long time. Through the window, he stared blankly at the stars in the sky. I'll find a chance to cripple Hyodo Kazunari. A cold murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Dustless closed his eyes again. At this time, a dark red light suddenly swept across the ground. A pattern flashed out of thin air as red as blood. Looks like a magic circle. Squinting his eyes, Dustless instantly understood what it was, and at the same time, he also thought of who it was. That looks like Rias. Dustless lifted the blanket and looked curiously at the magic circle. But this time he was destined to be disappointed. The person who came out of the magic circle was a silver-haired woman of great beauty. Why is she looking for me? She shouldn't have any connections. Dustless was surprised. This world was full of beauties, and the silver-haired woman in front of him was one in a million. Not only that, but she was also wearing a maid's uniform. Her perfect and delicate face was flawless. My name is Gilifia. I think we can have a serious discussion about some issues. The beautiful maid's breath was fragrant, and her seductive movements were especially enchanting. I think with the minister's strength, she could have caught up to her if she had chased after her, but you chose to ignore it. That means I did the right thing. Dustless still found a lame excuse. Is that so? I think you took a liking to someone else and purposely let her go. Gilifia glanced at Dustless and exposed his lie. This is a big problem. As Rias dependent, I have the right to ask. Then what do you plan to do? Dustless rubbed his chin playfully as he spoke with a teasing tone. This is a very serious question. Gilifia saw Dustless's sloppy attitude and his aggressive gaze, which made her extremely uncomfortable. She immediately emphasized, please correct your attitude. This is not a joke. Remember that you are Rias Jaimanri's dependent. You can represent? Are you joking? You're looking for trouble with me and you want me to correct my attitude? Rudely interrupting Gilifia, Dustless did not stop laughing. Instead he became even more arrogant. Gilifia had always been a serious person, and she always maintained a poker face in front of everyone. Hearing that, a sinister light appeared behind Gilifia, and a dense fog floated out. She instantly became like an ice queen, filled with murderous intent. This is magic power? Carefully sensing the surging energy behind Gilifia, Dustless nodded. It was indeed more powerful than Rias. Seeing that you're the sister-in-law of the minister, go back. I can let bygones be bygones this time. You're not my match, so don't humiliate yourself. Lying down on the bed again, Dustless crawled under the blanket and waved his hand, indicating that Gilifia could leave. However, this action did not earn Gilifia's gratitude. Instead, it angered her. Dustless's words clearly implied that he treated her as an insignificant character. To put it bluntly, she was a clown that could be easily destroyed. He did not care about her at all. We live in different worlds. Things that you think are impossible are as insignificant as dust in my eyes. Things that you think can only be done by the Demon King are within reach of me. I have the power to turn something rotten into something magical. Dustless said seriously. His hoarse voice was filled with magnetism. His tone was slow and his expression was also very serious. Gilifia could not help but laugh out loud. Dustless's serious monologue sounded like a joke in Gilifia's ears. If that's the case, why don't we have a competition? That you're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.